Okay, you're on.
Oh, there she
There
is.
she is. Now you're good.
Okay, I now call to order the special meeting of Snoqualmie Valley Hospital District Number 4, King County, on Wednesday, July 20th, 2016 at 1 p.m. And could the clerk give us a roll call, please?
President Norris,
Here.
Vice President Young,
Here.
Secretary Spikers,
Here.
Commissioner Herron, here, Commissioner Pollard.
Here.
Thank you. Do we have an approval of the agenda? Somebody want to make a motion?
Make the motion. I'll second it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
I'd like to add other, we may not need it, but I think it's good to have
Well,
it on there.
I disagree. Let's just go on.
Is there a second? Not hearing a second. We won't add that. Okay, so do we have an approval of the agenda? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? Okay. Did you abstain, Jean, or did you?
I approve.
Okay, thank you, Jean.
There's no interest in adding the other.
Okay.
We're gonna have it at least.
Thank you. The first business would be resolution number 5100716, approving benchmarking services for Truven Analytics. We have we had a table that we tabled on July 7th, 2016.
I move we remove this from the table to vote.
Oh. Want to go straight to vote? No discussion? Is that
Well,
correct?
It has to be seconded.
I second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye. Oh, any discussion?
I just want to say that I think that we achieved something by tabling this and clarifying that putting a cap on the expenses of the consultants who would be coming out, and also moving it to a one-year contract instead of a three-year contract. It could be renewed after a year. One question I still have, and maybe this could be answered rather quickly, and that is how many people will be coming out and we will have to cover their lodging and expenses. I think there's a cap of $2,000 on the total expenses.
That's the total.
Is that correct?
That's correct. That's right.
Yeah. Okay, so regardless of how many they bring out, there's a cap of $2,000.
That's my understanding.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. We had a second, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those that oppose? There's no opposing, so that passes. Okay, new business. New business is strategic planning with Andrew Ballard, Marketing Solutions Facilitator. And I guess the way this is written, we will do that and then have public comment and then talk about these extra things. That's the way it's written, right?
Right.
Okay.
That's just, a reminder of what's coming up next.
Okay. Andrew, you have the floor.
Great. Thank you, Madam President. Well, welcome everyone. It's great to actually see the people that I have spent time on the phone with. I'm just going to run through a few preliminaries. The preliminaries and kind of setting the stage, rules of the road, if you will, that we all abide by, is what's going to help us accomplish about 20 hours of work in the 7 hours we'll be together. So we have 2 half-day sessions. This is the first. Frankly, this is the easiest one because we're doing some review. And by the way, I'll address why you received a 100-page packet in less than 24 hours and how we're going to use that. Most of what we'll use in this packet will be used for our August 29th meeting. So that's why my email said, hey, just look at the overviews, and we're going to hit the highlights as part of the review. So what I'm going to start off with is just going through the agenda very quickly. Essentially, all of you have taken, I've had multiple meetings with Ariel and Tom, and then also meetings with staff, all in preparation of interviewing all 9 of you for putting this together. So this agenda is a culmination of all that information, but one agreement is that the planning is at a 2-year time horizon. So we're looking 2 years out, and that's very useful. We're not looking immediately at things that are urgent within 6 months, and we're not looking at things that are 5 years out. And this will become more relevant when we get to day 2. Yes, Gene?
Do you prefer to hear questions as they come up, or are you going to ask the question?
Why don't we do this? Let's go through the whole preliminaries, because a lot of the questions that you'll have I'll actually answer. And then before we move beyond preliminaries, I'll call for questions.
Just one quick question, because I thought this was supposed to be a 5-year strategic
No,
plan.
2 years. Just like the last time horizon was 2 years, and the dominant preference was among all of you to do 2 years. And by the way, to that point, whether it's 1 year, 5 year, 10 years, every plan has to be dynamic. Nothing is static. We have to be able to adjust to changes in our internal and external conditions. So 2 and 3 years is probably the most common and best practice. And then we develop work plans within a much shorter time horizon, usually within a year, associated to the budget cycle. So I'll get more into that when we get when I prime day 2. But I wanted to acknowledge, and again, this is from what I've learned from you. This isn't me just coming up with things out of my head. If all I did with that, it'd be a very scary 2 days. And maybe not that informative, frankly, but I want to acknowledge from your input that previous sessions have not produced maybe as strong of actionable or measurable plans that you had hoped. And so what I want to do is share the process that we're engaging in for our 2 sessions today. And I'll go through the agenda so we're really clear on what we're going to accomplish today and what will be our guidance system for day 2. But we're going to focus as a group, you as commissioners and leaders are going to focus on establishing a short set of strategic priorities over the next 2 years that will drive operations, work plans, etc. So at the end of day 2, you will have developed, narrowed down, and voted on the top priorities, strategic priorities under each of the strategic focus areas, which you will determine today. We'll review the last cycle of strategic focus areas, and you may want to revise those, or you may not. That's up to you. I'm about process. You're about the product. But after the 29th, at the end of that day at 5 o'clock, your staff will work and come back to the board to present specific metrics for our measurements and the action plans that will drive all the strategic priorities. And they will bring that to you, back to you for approval at a future board meeting. I would be very surprised if it would come back in September, because there's a lot of work that goes on. This might be work that goes through 4th quarter. That's up to Tom and his team. But I'm assuming that we're talking about a plan horizon for 2017 and 2018, so that we've got 4th quarter after our planning to do all the work planning and budgeting, et cetera. Great. So did you have a comment?
Just that we'll probably be trying to move on that pretty quickly so that those plans can be reflected in the budget.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. So the point is, I wanted to be clear as to what we're going to accomplish in our 2 days. In 7 hours, we cannot develop a strategic, operational, and tactical plan. Trying to do so would be a waste of your time, and we would fail miserably. You just can't do it. We are going to be focused at the strategic level and develop strategic priorities that the staff will then develop work plans. So that's the overarching objective in our guidance system for our 2 days. I also want to talk about some roles and responsibilities. Some people call them rules of the road, guidance systems, whatever. But they're very, very useful. And I might take 30 seconds, because I haven't worked with most of you, 30 seconds just to briefly tell you a little bit about me, so you can know what kind of abuse you can expect out of me. So I started professionally facilitating strategic planning processes in 1993. Since then, I've done over 500 of these. Okay? I published a book on what we're going to go through that sells very well on Amazon. It published in 2010. I'm also an adjunct faculty member at the University of Washington School of Business, where I teach this. So all that means is that under the strategic planning umbrella, I've screwed up more than anyone you've ever met. And I don't take myself too seriously. I take you seriously. I take our process and our time very seriously. But I just kind of want to give you that context. I'm pretty good at getting out of my own way. But my job is to manage time and topic and to be a good steward of your time and talent. And so that's my focus, and I'll get into some more specifics leading into that right now. First, before we get into our ground rules, though, I want to talk about building consensus. And I'm sure that none of this is going to be landmark for anyone, but the definition of building a consensus is essentially general agreement, where most folks are good with it, and then the majority and the minority can live with it, okay? So most like, the rest can live. It's not about 100%. If any organization, whether it's a governing body or the board of directors for a private organization, tried to reach 100% agreement on anything, they'd never get anything done, they'd be irrelevant, and they'd go out of business. So we're not trying to get 100% agreement on everything. That would be futile. So I use, just to kind of speed things up, I use a thumbs up, thumb sideways, thumbs down. And as long as the majority, and usually I look for a super majority, or thumbs up or thumbs sideways, we move on. If half or close to half are thumbs down, we slow down and continue the conversation, okay? If we've got a lot of folks with thumbs down, then we're not ready to move on to the next period here. So I want to talk about a very powerful and best practice technique in facilitation. It's called the nominal group technique, and it's what I employ. And again, it's part of being a good steward of your time and talent, and moving us along at a healthy pace. Not a pace so quick that we quelch good discussion, but at a healthy pace, and we just, the idea is we don't get bogged down. So it involves problem identification, solution generation, and decision making in that order. And so essentially, everyone's opinion is heard and equal. And then the groups, votes are prioritized. Sometimes we'll do official votes with sticky dots, and more of that will be towards the end of the day, and certainly on our second day. But sometimes it's just a thumbs exercise, but the idea is to prioritize the top solution, and again, majority rules. This isn't that far from Robert's rules, etc. But the nominal group technique, everyone around the table, and I have asked that your staff leaders, because they are a feasibility filter, participate at a peer level. They don't vote. The commissioners are the governing body. I recognize that. About 200 of those 500 retreats, by the way, are with electeds. So I completely respect the due process, but we really do want to include our staff leaders in the conversation because they can answer questions. They're living it operationally day to day. Traditional governance, top-level policy, set strategic direction, and not micromanage, and not get in the operational path of your leaders. You've been through quite a transition, and the current leadership has been identified as very effective through all of these interviews. The commissioners, almost to, I won't call it 100%, but near 100%, have demonstrated organically, not based on me asking, confidence in the new leadership. So that's a very good thing. So now, my last preliminary slide, and then I'll make sure that you have an opportunity to ask questions, is kind of the roles and responsibilities. And while your president already asked for agreement on the agenda, and you've done that, I'm just going to ask as you 9 participants, agree on the agenda. Oh, by the way, I want to go over this really quick, very quickly. Kind of hard to ask you to agree something I haven't unpackaged. So we're going to look at both days, but look on the front page, day 1. We are just about through our preliminaries. We started a few minutes late, but I build margin into these. We're going to do just fine. We're going to do a very short communications exercise where everybody gets to participate. I'll explain that when we get there. We're going to do a quick review on all of the documents that were part of that PDF that were emailed yesterday. And I'll talk about that in context of, the high-level overview and how that will inform affirming or revising our North Star. And I'm defining our North Star as our vision statement, our mission statement, and our strategic focus. And you'll have an opportunity to discuss those and maybe even do some revisions. Again, that's up to you. We've got processes for managing that in a way that isn't going to take until next Tuesday. So, And after doing that and having that conversation, you can see that there's ample time with those major exercises to encourage dialogue. I'll get into how we use the parking lot in just a moment. But all we're trying to accomplish today is to really affirm, which may include revising our North Star, vision, mission, strategic focus areas, and then we'll do a quick wrap-up. If you'll turn the page on day 2, we'll do a very quick recap on day 1, which will include comments. And then we will break into teams. We're going to divide you into 2 teams. There'll be 1 team of 5, 1 team of 4. And who's and which teams we don't have to worry about right now. That's something for later because we're a month out from that. But the teams are going to break out. And let's just say, for example, that we end up with 4 strategic focus areas like we have now. Maybe they're a bit different. Maybe you only revised 1 or 2, but let's just say. And it doesn't matter whether you have 3 or 5. Usually it falls into that area. 4 just kind of seems to be the most common denominator. But let's say you end up with 4. 1 team will tackle 2 of those 4. The other team will tackle the other 2. And we'll do breakout groups where both breakouts will develop strategic priorities under each strategic focus area. And then each group will do a presentation to each team will do a presentation to the entire group. And even though you're only on 1 team, you will have input into both teams, because after each team does their presentation, those not on that team can ask questions, make suggestions, etc. And then we do a second breakout where the teams can actually incorporate the feedback and the recommendations of the people that weren't on their team. It's a way to get, essentially 10 hours of work done in 4 hours. Very, very common. Didn't make this thing up, but breaking out, dividing and conquering is very, very common as part of the nominal group technique. But the important thing I want you to take away with is that even though you'll only be on 1 team dealing with half of the strategic focuses in terms of the strategic strategies, you will have input onto every strategic area. And so that's what really important. So everybody gets their fingerprints on the whole thing. So, and then after the second breakout, where each team revises based on the other participants' input, we do a prioritization exercise, which I will explain when we get there. I don't want to get to that, but we look at the whole portfolio horizontally to make sure that there are no duplicates across the strategic focus areas, and then you'll all have a chance to prioritize the entire portfolio, regardless of what team you're on. Everybody's going to have equal votes for all of those. And then we'll wrap up, agree on next steps, timeline in terms of when staff gets work plans, metrics, etc. back to you. We'll do a 5-minute evaluation on what you liked about our process, what you'd like to see improved for next time. By the way, I've kept a database of evaluations. I have, 300 or 400 of them. And I actually use them to optimize this whole process. Not my first rodeo. Again, I've made mistakes, but if you're smart, you learn more from your failures than from your successes. So before I get into our guiding principles that will essentially manage our code of conduct in the 2 days, does anybody have any questions or comments about the agenda? Because this is really what I'm going to be using to assure that we've got a productive process.
Would you define North Star in this context?
You bet. I'd be happy to. Thank you for the question. So the North Star, and that actually is a bit unfair. I actually brought a copy of my book. I'll give it to you at the end of day 1. I'd be happy to bring a copy for everybody. The distributor sends me a couple $100 books a year. I don't distribute these. This is an East Coast gift.
A couple $100.
No, this is free. This is my thanks for letting me abuse you for 2 days. But to your point, North Star, and it's the first chapter of my book, is establishing a guidance system. It's the highest strategic strata of the organization in your plan. So it's usually articulated in the term of a mission statement and a vision statement and core values. And it's usually, sometimes you might read it on a placard, vision, mission, values, but the order that we actually produce the work is mission first, then vision, and then values. Because if you can't agree on your mission, which essentially is a statement of purpose, you have a very difficult time visioning. So essentially, we're going to look at, and we either are going to affirm or we're going to revise our existing mission, vision, and those 4 strategic areas, which are their growth, their finance, their relationship, and quality, I believe. I have them all up there.
You did it right.
Did I get it? Okay. I've been, your leadership has been, Tom has been indoctrinating me with about 200 documents a week. I mean that as a compliment. I'm exaggerating.
You're not exaggerating?
I'm exaggerating, maybe by 99%.
Okay.
The point is that your leadership is taking this process and your time very seriously, and they've done a really good job of preparing me. As a facilitator, I don't need to be an industry expert. I'm not a consultant here. I'm not about making recommendations. You're about making recommendations. My job is to be a good steward of your time and talent. Keep us on track, on time, and on topic so that we end out at 5 o'clock on day 2 having produced the product you want, which is a short set of strategic priorities under your affirmed or revised focus areas. So it's really our guidance system. And the thought behind that is that if a group can't agree on the highest strata, then you can never percolate down into focus areas and strategic priorities.
Thank you very much.
You bet. That's a great question. Because different people have different terminology there. And so I'm going to go through the guiding principles, and then we'll take another minute to see if there are any questions or comments. So, by the way, I didn't make this for you. This is the same slide I've used for 15 years, and it's just a very effective approach. I work with a lot of governments, municipal, county, state. I just did the food securities planning session for the Democratic Caucus in Olympia. So the state stuff, I've got a lot of clients in all 3 time zones. I really enjoy this work. And please take this with a grain of salt, because remember, I don't take myself too seriously. I have learned over 20 plus years of doing this that dysfunctional government is in fact redundant. You don't need both words. Well, now, I'm taking it with a grain of salt here. That is also true for not-for-profit boards and private boards. Private boards, especially if they're publicly traded, well, then they'd be a public entity. They're the worst, especially if you've got some. I just did a bank where one person had 51% of the shares. Oh, you got that right. I spent a month with this person before the 2-day retreat, making sure that we, that we were organized appropriately and that everybody else in the room didn't think that they were going to be wasting their time. But the point is, and frankly, in interviewing you, you all confirm what most political bodies experience, and that is that there is, dysfunction in politics, that there's sometimes dysfunction in process, and don't be impressed with yourself. It just means you're hideously normal. Okay, I'm not impressed. I am here to help you through that and to be a good steward of your time. So this is the same slide. Didn't want you to think I just made it just for you. So roles and responsibilities. Now that I've actually gone through the agenda and we do have agreement, I'm just asking all of you participants, all 9 of you, to grant me the authority to be a good steward of your time and use the agenda and the timeline in general terms to keep us on track. Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Awesome. I got thumbs up all the way around. Thank you, Joe. I like that. So we're already using the exercise. So that's great. By the way, the times are approximate. We might actually be in a discussion that's very rich, and I'm not about to stick to a timeline just to check off a box, because this is your meeting, not mine. I'm very role aware here. But I will keep us on track, and we may have to put something in the parking lot or assign it to an ad hoc committee or something to come back to so that we can get through our entire agenda. But thank you very much for that. So I've got 2 things, and again, this is my standard slide. I'm going to ask everybody to participate, but no individual or group of individuals to dominate. I just facilitated a retreat 2 weeks ago for a community association. There were 72 people in the room, and they were divided between 3 factions, fiefdoms, if you will. And they all broke apart and fought, and the whole thing, this is years ago when they did their previous plan, about 5 years ago, but we got through it based on all this. So no group or individual is going to dominate. If you're dominating, don't take it personally. I'm just going to move on and get somebody else's opinion. If you're not contributing, Don't be upset, doctor, if I say, hey, I want to hear your thoughts on that. I'm not picking on you, there's a lot of affirmation coming from you through this whole process, and so I'm acknowledging that. Next, disagree, yes. Disagreeable, no. So this is how I unpackage that. I expect disagreement. I actually encourage it. It produces a better discourse. One of my favorite quotes is from JFK, and he said, if you have 10 people on a committee, and all 10 of them see the issue the exact same way, you have 9 too many people on that committee. There's no leverage, there's no different perspectives, there's no power in building a better product. So disagree all day long, and we're going to make sure you have opportunity for those conversations. But I don't tolerate a disagreeable tone. I'm going to maintain a constructive dialogue, civil discord. That is not an unusual request, and it works really well, whether I'm with 9 people or 72. So again, nothing earth-shattering here. I'm the facilitator. I work for you. You've granted me authority based on this agenda to keep us focused and on track in terms of time and topic, which you've approved, knowing that the times are going to be a little squishy. I start on time and I end on time. Most of my clients have, you've heard of the love-hate relationship? Mm-hmm. Most of my clients have a hate-love relationship with me. They hate me on the front end because I'm pretty structured, keep us going, but at 5 o'clock on the 29th of August, I dare say that you will love me because you will have produced everything you wanted to. It will be great work because of you, not because of me, but we'll get everything taken care of. We'll get it done. I'm not going to let us go off the rails. I'm going to limit sidebar conversations and keep the conversation at an appropriate strategic level. We are not going to get down in the weeds or into details on any particular issues, okay? This is a high-level strategic conversation that we're going to have. And so this is where I use the parking lot, which is my next bullet. Ideas or issues not covered in today's agenda. I'm going to say, hey, great, I'm going to honor the input, and I'm going to put it up here. And it will end up in my report. Everything that ends up in the flip charts, and your entire strategy board that you will produce by the end of the 29th of August, I'll be submitting a report to Tom, and so you'll have all of this. You don't need to take those notes. But I'll honor your submission, but I'm going to put it up here and I'm going to move us right back to the original topic. Okay? Parking lots are facilitators' best friends. We have an ambitious agenda over the 2 days, and if we have to move it to a committee or an ad hoc group or whatever, we'll notate that on the parking lot. Let me give you an example. Let's say that there's kind of a rich conversation about revising, let's just say one of the statements, or 2 of the statements. Again, mission, vision, strategic focus. Well, we're opening that conversation up on purpose so that you can do that. But if we broke down and began from scratch each of those 3 areas, that's a half-day meeting. So you may only revise a few things. Whatever you revise will be up to you. But we only have an hour and a half to do all those revisions. And I can do all of those from scratch, but they take about an hour and 15 minutes each. Actually, the strategic focus we can do in about 45 minutes. But it's a process where we get to brainstorm, get everybody's ideas out, and then we consolidate down to what's most important. And then you do the sticky dots, and we pick the top 4 or whatever. It doesn't mean that the rest of them go away, because those that didn't end up as the top 4 usually stimulate the strategy conversations in day 2. Everything we do will drive toward the end product. But if we get into a lengthy discussion on something, I may have to parking lot it, and we may have to do some work in between these 2 sessions. But we're going to get out today getting through the entire agenda. So, those are my guiding principles. Rules of the road seem so pedestrian. I like guiding principles. So, there should be a prologue there. Before I go into my prologue, I start every retreat with a prologue and I end it with an epilogue. I'll explain that in a second. But Commissioner Pollard asked a very good question. Is, do we do questions real time, or can we do? So now's the time for Q&A. And then after that, as we go through each exercise, it will be a live and dynamic conversation. You won't need to wait to say, hey, I have something to share. So, based on all those preliminaries I brought up, does anybody have any questions, suggestions, or concerns? Now is the time to bring them up. Okay, I think we did some pretty good stage setting. Awesome. Based on my experience in the first 15 minutes with this group, I think we're going to be in really good shape. So let me explain the prologue real quick, and then we'll jump into our communications exercise. And by the way, even though we started a little bit late, we've got plenty of margin. We're good. So for many years, I have done my prologue and epilogue. I only do this when I'm together with an aggregate of a full day. From one of the best books I've ever read, and that is Life's Journey According to Mr. Rogers. And you might remember Mr. Rogers with the cardigan and, he'd be my neighbor. The fact is that he was a PhD and a brilliant man and a wonderful humanitarian. I just absolutely loved it. I love studying biographies of famous and effective people. He's one of those people I study. So I always grab one. You see, I got lots of notes. I always pick the prologue after doing the interviews. And I never pick the epilogue until after the afternoon break on the last day, because I like to keep it relevant. Anyway, so here is what I thought would be great for you, and I'll be honest, I use this a lot, especially when working with a group for the first time. And the reason I do is because strategic planning is about trade-offs. We can't do everything that we want to do. We have to prioritize the few things that we can actually do that will have the greatest impact on our enterprise, and let the other things go away. My counsel is always, let's be really good at doing a few things and moving the needle in the right direction, rather than really mediocre in a laundry list. So, but you will take the laundry list and you will narrow it down through that nominal group technique. So this is a short one, just 2 sentences. Transitions are almost signs of growth, but they can bring feelings of loss. To get somewhere new, you may have to leave somewhere else behind. Isn't that profound? In other words, it's about trade-offs. We can't do everything that we want to do. But what we can do is use the brain power around these tables to have conversations and narrow things down to what is most important. Then we do our nominal group voting, and we move forward by doing a deeper dive on what's most important. Does that make sense? I love Mr. Rogers. So with that, we're going to do a very quick communications exercise. This is something that your president believes in, not necessarily this exercise, but having something where we can kind of let our hair down, so to speak, and do something really quick. So we're going to do a very quick. This will take about 8 or 9 minutes. It's called 2 Truths and a Lie. Has anybody played this game before? And Valerie, I want you to play with this too. You don't want to play? Okay, Jay, so I'm going to prepare you for going first. I'm going to give you an example of how to do this. Sometimes people, especially that are very analytical, need to write them down. That's fine. So you're going to tell 2 truths about yourself from now going backwards to birth, and 1 lie. Don't do it in that order. The idea is you're trying to stump those around you, okay? Because after you've given 2 truths and a lie, I'm going to ask one person in the group to try to guess your lie. It's just a way of getting to know each other. And we don't. It doesn't matter if you get to know each other. And the easiest thing to do, most people have trouble coming up with a lie. The easiest way to come up with a lie is make a minor modification on the truth. So here's my example. I'll give you 3, and you determine which one is the lie, or just one person guess. I don't want to belabor it, but I used to play with the Seattle Seahawks. I was a rock star and did a world tour, and I have a 14-year-old granddaughter. What do you think the lie is? 14-year-old. You're so intuitive. It's the 14-year-old granddaughter. She's actually 15. She'll be 16 in September. Now, see, I just took a minor modification that makes things easier. And we'll talk some other day about the Seahawks. And I was not an alignment. I will tell you that. But we'll talk about this meeting is about you, not me. So Jay, just share, just really quickly, just 2 truths and a lie.
Okay, let's see. I was an extra in a major motion picture.
Awesome. I love where this is going.
I was, actually, I've been to 6 out of the 7 continents, and I raised a camel in Kuwait.
Awesome. So I just want one person, like Joan stepped up with me, I want one person, and we want different people doing this. What do you think the lie is? Because it doesn't matter if we're right or wrong, that's not the point of the exercise. So you have an idea. What do you think, Kim?
I think you were not an extra in the movie.
I'm with
You
Ben.
are absolutely right.
I'll tell you what, I'm not playing poker with Joan or Kim, because
That
you...
means
But
you
I
could
would've
be
said.
the star, not an extra.
Touche.
I would've said.
Yeah, exactly.
But, so now, we're going to have to unpack that during the break. I want to find out about the camel. And also,
In the military.
6 of the 7 continents, that's impressive.
He's in the military.
Gene,
Yes.
share your 2 truths and a lie in any random order.
In Berlin, when I was in the Foreign Service, I lived in the home of an ex-Nazi on the banks of one of Berlin's prettiest lakes. I was a champion tennis player in high school, and in college I graduated with honors.
Cool. Hey, by the way, both Jay and Gene have given us the blueprint for doing this right, kind of, going through it really quick. So who wants to guess Gene's lie? Somebody different. I want to abuse everyone equally. Yes, Tom?
I'm going with tennis.
That's right.
This is scary. We're running at 100%. That is unusual. I love it though. Emma, what do you think?
I was a martial artist. I was an entertainer, and I had 5 children.
Oh, cool. So somebody different is going to guess Emma's. Yeah, David.
He does not have 5 children.
Yeah,
How many children do you have?
1.
Yeah, 1. That's impressive. Well, she didn't make a minor modification of the truth. She went for it. But martial artists, I'm going to be treating you maybe nicer than everybody else. I don't want you to whack me. Anyway, so that's really fun. So we're learning some things, and during our break and between now and August, we'll have time to get to know each other. David.
All right. I was a subject of radio and TV at least 2 dozen times in my life, on the air or in a television program. I took over the vice presidency for approximately 30 seconds. And
Of what? The country?
the country. And let's see here. Another good one.
You're a lawyer.
And I have acted as a judge in the past.
There you go.
You have acted as the judge in the past. Okay, so somebody want to guess David's lie?
You were really one heartbeat away, huh? I gotta say that. I thought you.
So they're saying the vice presidency
Yeah.
essentially is the lie.
Okay, that is wrong. I actually was in college, and it's subject to, interpretation. I was. Vice President Mondale was the president at the time, and I went there on a class for college. We were there for about 2 weeks.
That's a good one, because
And
everybody
I
assumes.
sat in his chair when he came into the office. And when he came into the office, you know what I said to him? All the security people came in. I continued to sit there with the plaque above my head. I have a picture of this in the newspaper. I said, "Can I help you?" Exactly true.
That actually goes into a lot of explanation about you, David. That is really cool. Okay, Joan, you are up.
I'm having challenges. I was in the marching band at the University of Iowa for 4 years.
Is that Hawkeyes?
Hawkeyes.
Yeah. I'm not going to tell you why I know that. During the break, I'll explain. Because you might hit me.
No.
So, you're a marching band?
Yes.
With University of Iowa?
I have 3 children, and I once served on student government.
Okay. So who's going to guess Joan's lie? They all seem very, very possible and pragmatic.
3 children. 3 children.
They tell that. Did she only have 2?
No, she has
Really?
3.
She has 3.
So which is your lie?
Student body president.
No.
The marching
I didn't
band.
say student body president, I said an officer.
Yeah.
The marching band in the 60s at the University of Iowa was all male.
Oh. So not only did we find out the lie, but there's a story behind that. That's pretty cool. I've been a lifelong Rotarian, and it wasn't until 1984 that women came into the club. And then all of a sudden, women became presidents of clubs, and all of a sudden, things started working better. And there you go.
Oh, dear. I'm not good at this kind of thing.
We know how many kids you have.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell.
You said 1, we would.
I have 8, actually. Let's see. I graduated from the University of Washington School of Nursing. We've lived in Preston 40 years. And I knocked out a gentleman till I knocked him out.
You made somebody unconscious.
Yeah.
Cool. So.
And it was male. It was male.
It's the last one.
No,
No.
I actually did knock somebody out.
You punched a guy?
I was 5 years old, and he was harassing my brother, and I wound up, and I knocked him out.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
And my stepfather was very
It's
impressed.
40 years in Preston.
That's incredible.
42.
So there's the thing. Well, I knew that you graduated from UW in nursing because of our previous lunch.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. So a lot of you are finding out things you didn't know. Between your knockout punch and your martial arts, I know who to respect most. Tom, let's hear it.
Okay. I have written 3 iPhone apps. I have hitchhiked in the Andes, and I have received FBI training to fire the mp3 machine gun.
Interesting. The way he put those, and he didn't do the typical tells that people exhibit, the nonverbal clues that tell you when they're lying. So I don't have a clue. So who's going to guess? Steve, you haven't guessed on anything yet, have you? I'm going to put you on the spot. Which of those do you think is the lie?
Number 1.
Yeah, I have not written 3 iPhone apps.
That's what I was going to.
How many have you written?
0.
None.
I do not know how to code.
That is great.
Number 1 was
I figured
Emma kind of knew it with confidence. Kim?
My first job was scooping ice cream. My favorite ice cream is pistachio, and I have contributed a recipe that won an award for pistachio ice cream.
Wow, not only did she have 3, but they are laced together. It's very impressive. Are you a writer by chance?
It depends if you get my emails or not.
Those don't count. So very impressive. First job was scooping ice cream. Second favorite was pistachio. Third, made a recipe, won an award for a recipe on pistachio.
I'm going to say it's not pistachio.
Yes, that's what I would say. Number 2.
Pistachio gelato is my best.
So,
Pistachio is my favorite.
so what's your lie?
I haven't done an award-winning recipe.
Oh, hey, that's very good. That's very impressive. You know, there are a few of you that I would not play poker with, just because I'd lose money. Okay, Steve, close us out.
I have been to Europe 3 times. I played football in high school, and one of my past jobs was as a logger.
As a logger?
Logger.
3, yeah.
Oh, geez.
Which is the lie? What do you think, Gene?
I think he's been to Europe more than 3 times.
You got it. It's 2 times, though.
Yeah, good
But
job.
he has guessed twice, and both times has been right.
Yeah.
You guessed right, Joan guessed, a lot of you have just, this is scary.
I've been wrong every time.
You and I are my poker buddy. I just found my poker buddy.
Maybe we vote you in the election.
Yeah, make money on that. Okay,
It's also right.
so, we were 20 minutes behind, now we've made up 10 minutes, we're only, my gosh, 9 minutes back, we're doing really well. So now, kind of the review, and I want to set the stage. And so I want to talk a little bit about why we presented this package. You can blame me, why we presented it so late. Usually we try to get these packages out a couple weeks ahead of time, especially when there's so much reading to do. But you're going to have time to go through all of that before you use it to develop strategy. So that lowers our blood pressure. But everything we do today is to set the stage for day 2. Day 2 is when you actually develop strategy. But we have to set the context for that and establish a solid foundation, the North Star that Gene wanted a little more information on. Today is all about setting that North Star. This is a high-level review. We're not going to get in-depth and go through 100 pages. We certainly don't have time for that. You will have time to get more in-depth for day 2. I mean, we essentially have 5 weeks before our next session. There's plenty of time. So before you actually develop strategic priorities, you have plenty of time to get into that. And based on your own interests and your own level of information, you may not get into all of it. Frankly, I have not read every page. I've read the overview, and I'm going to show you PowerPoint screens of the high-level review of everything in that packet. So you don't even have to have read that packet to experience the review in a way that will prepare you to identify if we're going to affirm or revise our North Star, mission, vision, strategic focus. Because everything we're doing is to get to that point today. We'll walk out with either those 3 affirmed, based on your revisions or not that you have, or if we get stuck or high-centered on something, because they're so important, we may assign something to a committee. Oh, by the way, let me explain why we didn't send this out until yesterday, is that we were collecting community survey data until yesterday morning. And actually, we haven't stopped. We're going to continue. We only got 21 completed surveys. And Jill, frankly, busted her hump. I saw the list, and it was nearly 20 different channels, newspapers, several different social media groups, email lists, flyers out at the hospital and all the clinics. She really worked hard. We had
homeless shelter, YMCA. I mean,
yeah, the list just goes on. It's really quite extensive. So I mean, just I was really impressed. So a couple things is we wanted to give it as much time to tabulate, and if you broke into the packet, you know our sample is only 21. Our sample goal was 100. So we're going to keep the survey open. We're going to continue doing outreach to get more people in. We actually had 52 people hit the site, but only 21 actually took the whole survey. And so we're going to do a little bit of tweaking on that landing page of the survey site to make sure people know that we're not just asking for that one question, that regardless of whether they said yes or no, they had a recent experience, that we want their information. With that high of an abandon rate, I'm thinking that might be a bit confusing. She actually already had me correct a typo this morning. So she is on it. Very impressed with Jill. But, so that's the reason. Yes, Jill?
The question is, I never saw the survey. I don't get the Valley record. I live in
It's on the
Lenore Valley.
website.
It's on the hospital website?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't-
and
I don't go-
you just pointed out something kind of important, and that it means that our entire community hasn't had information about that. So we're going to continue that. It is on the home page, a big magenta button
Okay.
that says, you know, we
Okay,
want
I
your
can do
feedback.
that. I just,
I have several comments about that also, but I think that's probably not a good use of our time at this point.
Maybe you and I could chat a bit during the break, because I would like to have your input.
Sure, I will give it to you.
Okay, good.
Thank
Anything that might help us get, you know, better traction on that. We're going to keep it open, and there's no additional cost to that. We're just going to keep it open, and then what we'll do is we'll take our second set, you know, a few days before the 29th, and then tabulate that and integrate it into the original tabulation, so we've got more than 21. Anyway, so that's the reason, but really, this high-level overview is just to help us with our North Star, and then you'll have a month plus to dig into that packet of the needs assessment, the research. Even my key findings report from all my interviews with you are in there. There's also a very recent industry analysis from the end of the first quarter of this year. When you have an analysis that's only a couple months old, it's pretty fresh stuff. And while some of the high-level stuff I'll share might not be aha moments for you, but if there's one or two things that are informative, that's very useful. So that's the review. High level, we're not going to dig into those 100 pages. You're going to have over a month to do that. But I did want to explain the method behind my madness of getting that information to you so late. That's all on me, but since we've got a month between our 2 days, it's going to work out just fine. So, our review, we're going to look at the mission, vision, and strategic focus areas for affirmation or revisions. And again, the revisions are up to you, and I'll facilitate that conversation. We're going to look at, again, just very high level of our industry analysis. Needs assessment, that needs assessment is 30 pages. We're kind of focused on a couple pages that really identify some key health conditions, one in particular, which I'll talk about in a minute. The research findings, internal, that's commissioners and leadership. External, what are the key findings that we're surfacing so far from our community research? And then, of course, most of you, if not all of you, participated in a SWOT analysis in January of this year. And I actually went through and kind of did a brief tabulation. And so I'm presenting kind of the tabulated responses, because it's a lot of stuff. For me, I'm actually a growth strategist that fell into facilitation, because I love facilitation. Even though you're going to find that I'm kind of, well, my personality is an alphabet soup. I've got ADD, I'm OCD. I've got ADHD. I have all three forms of dyslexia. And those that know me really well are pretty convinced that I'm inattentive. My wife believes that I was potty trained at gunpoint, but I'm not going to get into that. Why she and my mom don't get it. You forgot bedwetting. I stopped doing that at 32. Anyway, no, I got all that going. But there are some pros to all of that. By the way, this is my letterbox, just really quickly. I wasn't kidding. I actually do have ADHD. I'm not OCD. I do have ADHD, and I have all three forms of dyslexia. Severe. I was labeled mentally retarded in 3rd grade because I couldn't read. But they didn't test for dyslexia in the mid-'60s, right? And around the reading circles, C-spot run was associated to a photograph, a picture, an illustration. Every time it came around to me, all I was doing was reciting what I heard. I didn't know that I was memorizing and not reading. But by 3rd grade, there's no pictures. I was outed. But my mom didn't believe I was retarded and went through a lot of tests. And most people that have learning disorders like mine actually have above average IQs, which actually can be more problematic than the benefit. But the point is that I can't spell. I start every new class at the UW. I don't teach in the summer, but fall, winter, and spring, different class. And I teach all 400 level classes, business, so they're seniors that are smarter than I am. But I start every class here. With this ABC box. So you're going to see me doing something over a couple days and, writing your thoughts down, etc. And so when you see a word that's missing a letter, quietly and cognitively, pull it out of the letterbox and fix it. You're also going to see words that have an extra letter. Just reverse engineer, pull the letter out, stick it in the box. By 5 o'clock on August 29th, it's all going to even out. But it'll be really ugly getting there. So that's my quick disclaimer.
I can tell you, I can guarantee I will not be the one up there correcting your spelling.
Oh, I really stink. And
it won't be me. Might be
wrote,
other people here.
I didn't have a ghostwriter. I actually wrote my book, but I had to pay a really good editor.
Yeah.
And my wife proved it. She did a really good job, too. But anyway, so we're going to just look at a high-level overview of this in context of going back and revisiting this. That's our day. So let's just jump right into it. And to this point, as you have an idea or comment, just kind of shoot it in. So we want a live and organic dialogue here. So your mission statement, I'm sure this is not new. promote the health and well-being of people in our community by providing quality care in a collaborative environment. By the way, I've written hundreds and hundreds of mission statements, and this one meets all the criteria of one that's very well designed. I'm assuming you had professional facilitation with this, or you went through a structured process. And I'm not saying that because I don't want you to change it. It's your statement. You want to change it, we're going to change it. I'm just saying that this meets all the best practices of a very well-crafted statement. Vision statements, which are typically shorter, and this is great, we will safeguard the health of our community. Really proactive, really positive. And then we've got our 4 strategic focus areas: quality, financial relationship, and growth. And while we're going to, that's about the extent of the 2013, 2014 plan we're going to do. We're not going to get into all of the previous goals that were developed, because what we're going to develop in terms of strategic priorities, we want you to own. It's going to be used. That doesn't mean that you can't draw from that previous work. If there are some goals in there that are still relevant, that will inform the strategic development process, bring that to our conversation on day 2 when we do our breakouts and develop our strategic priorities. There could be gold in that. So we're not dismissing it, but we are going to get through the strategic focus, and you're going to affirm or change 1, 2, or all of them. It's I've read all this stuff, and there's still a lot of things that are relevant, even though that a lot has changed since 2012, 2013 in our healthcare environment, mainly because of demographics, managed care, ACA. There's just a lot of, the way that we're being reimbursed, payees, it's just, we're in a brave new world, right? Again, I'm not sharing anything you don't already know. So let's take a deep dive on the industry analysis, because it was something that I was responsible to bring. It was an important deliverable. I've got 3 or 4 slides on this. The rest of them are very fast slides. So we've got this review. We've got the review. We've got an hour and 25 minutes for the review. We might get through it in a half hour, 45 minutes. The reason we essentially have an hour left is that I want you to be able to make comments or ask questions. I might not have all the answers, but when it comes to all these documents, I have them already loaded in your computer here. In fact, when it comes to doing the commissioner and leadership review and the community review, I have them hot linked, and I'll just show you the key findings. So, $1 trillion industry, 7,100 hospitals. This is U.S. stat. By the way, again, these are all fresh. These are 2016 stats. Top 50 organizations generate 30% of revenue. That's just to say that we're in a very fragmented category, right? Inpatient, outpatient ratios. Currently, and these are estimates, it's different, but you can see inpatient is still outpacing outpatient in terms of revenue. This was much higher 10 years ago. Our length of stays and our move to more outpatient obviously has been purposeful. My daughter, and she's in her 30s, went through a pretty serious surgery planned at Swedish in Seattle. And we checked her in at 6:45 in the morning. She went through Da Vinci surgery, dealing with some pretty serious issues. Everything came out great. They discharged her at 1 o'clock the same day. 10 years ago, it would have been overnight, easy, maybe even more. And she's doing great, but it's just really accelerating. So I'm not saying that as a bad thing. It is what it is. I think there's probably some positives to that. Public-private insurance. Right now, the public, Medicare and Medicaid, is generating approximately 40% of our revenue. You have the real ratios, but these are approximates for your industry of total revenue. And private insurance and payers, 60%. Working capital turnover ratio. And by the way, this is presented with large, very large, medium, and small. And would I be correct in characterizing us as a smaller hospital? That's what I thought. So I just went out there. And the smaller the hospital, the higher the turnover rate. And that's a good thing. And that goes to how quickly we're turning over our cash. So it's 0.21 is working capital turnover as an average for small hospitals in the United States. And then you can look at yours and kind of figure, are we at, under, or overperforming? So it's just useful information. And you know, if one or two things out of all this say, hey, that's going to kind of inform my conversation when we get into strategic development, so that's the purpose of doing it. Industry employment growth, year over year, from 15 to 16 is obviously it's the forecast. Pardon me. This is first quarter 16 over first quarter 15. I have to correct that. I tried to make these quick, but at 4%. Average hourly wage, these are hourly wages since 2010 at 15%. At 2016, we are at $29.99 as compared to 2010. What do we have there, Tom? $26.
2010 was 2611.
2611. So again, it's the environment where we're in. Year-over-year equipment and supply costs. Again, this year-over-year means from first quarter 16 compared to first quarter 15, increased 2.4%. Year-over-year consumer prices for medical care services rose 3.6%, and then U.S. total revenues increased year-over-year. And again, this is comparing first quarter 16 to first quarter 15 at 2.9%. Just kind of giving you a landscape assessment is what we'll call this.
Yeah.
Compounded growth rate estimated at 6% from 2016 to 2020. In that 5-year period, the compounded growth rate in terms of growth and demand for hospitals. Did I see a hand show up? Okay. Again, just really high-level overview. You'll be able to kind of get into the data at whatever detail you want to before day 2. Key industry drivers. Technology innovation.
Just a quick note, Andrew.
Yes.
That growth rate is 6% per annum, not 6% between now and 2020. That's 6%.
Oh, I thought it was a compounded rate.
It says annual compounded.
Annual. Thank you
Yes.
very much for
Yep.
that clarification.
Yeah, so we're going to keep.
Yeah, that's a significant difference.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the forecast is an annual compounded rate of 6% per year between today
And 2020.
and 2020. Thank you. That's a very important distinction. I'm kind of embarrassed I didn't have the annual word in.
Could you further clarify that? Are we talking about inpatient hospital performance or what?
It's talking about the total growth rate of hospital.
Of hospitals.
Yes, of hospitals in the United States as an average.
That's the
Growth
demand
in
for
what
services.
respect?
Demand for services.
Okay.
That means in
And it
12 years of
expressed in
recovery.
total expenditures for hospital care.
So inpatient and outpatient.
They're grouping all of that together as a total forecast of demand. Right? Thank you, Tom, for bringing up that annual thing. That's a horse that's a different color. Key industry driver, and please continue to do that. If I've got typos up here, if I misstate something, just stop and bring it out. I'm not going to be embarrassed. I've got a thick skin. Remember, I'm here to serve you. And if I make a mistake, it's got to be called out, especially when it's that big. Frankly, that's a little embarrassing. Technical innovation and government regulation. Key industry drivers. No surprise there, right? There has been pros and cons from both sides of that. Critical industry issues. Affordable Care Act and managed care. Kind of changing the way that we come at it. Key business challenges, and this is my last slide. Again, I'm just kind of focused. I went through the entire thing and just pulled out some key issues and ratios. Capital spending required. And some of these may resonate more for us than others. Rising cost of hospital care, medical errors, and by the way, in terms of errors, I mean, with the new ACA, the publicly funded side of coverage is based on outcomes now, right? So in other words, if you have someone that has to come right back for another procedure, you're going to get paid less.
Or not at all.
Or not at all,
For that.
based on those negative outcomes.
Yeah.
So I mean, this has a huge financial impact. I'm kind of a Six Sigma geek. I have a very low-level belt. But when I got my certification back in '05, they actually have special courses for Six Sigma just for healthcare. I mean, Six Sigma, it's all about, continuous quality improvement, reducing errors and defects, et cetera. It's a big deal. And of course, lean is part of all of that conversation. Staffing shortages. And some people might even say the ACA is accelerating or causing even more issues in terms of shortages, in terms of forecast. High risk of employee injury. That was one that kind of caught my interest. Had not really thought of that before. Ban on new physician-owned hospitals. I don't know that that was retroactive. I think it's really based on new, right? And that's really it. Oh, I got one more. Trends. Consolidation. And by the way, that conversation may come up. You sent out a really good white paper from Key Bank on some financial.
That I did do. I passed along. David had done that.
Okay.
That was.
Well, I read the entire overview, and I found it fascinating and relevant.
Yep.
And the idea of the new M&A might be a JOA, a joint operating agreement, and strategic partnerships.
Whatever flavor they're accelerating.
Yes. Yeah. So consolidation, healthcare, infrastructure, IT, information technology, reduced patient hospital stays. We talked about that a minute ago. Medical tourism. So if you kind of take a look at the report, what they're talking about is that last year, 1.2 million Americans went to a different country to have a procedure because of cost. India is a huge medical tourism destination. When I saw that, I had to go read more about that. That's fascinating. I had never heard of that. I have a lot of clients in healthcare. So that's obviously, and this is probably fairly recent over the last decade and growing. Growth of outpatient services, we kind of touched base on that already. Growth of accountable care organizations, and ACOs even showed up in your SWOT analysis. I actually do read all the stuff you sent me.
Is that the place we can also see changes as a result of governmental action? For example, we're facing an election soon in November. There's a part of our political leaders that want to destroy or to do away with the Affordable Care Act, to which you're constantly referring. This could change things tremendously. And I don't see that listed as a change agent.
That's a really good point. It did not show up. I didn't, everything I pulled out of here, it's worth pointing that out. Everything I pulled out of here came directly out of the report. I condensed a little bit, but your point is very well taken. Whether it's a complete overhaul or taking it away or minor modifications, the fact that the initial 2,300 pages is going to change, I think is highly likely that there will be some modifications. Whether it's a wholesale change, I think that you're right, Gene. I think it really has to do with which party is in power at the administrative level.
Yeah, so for five years or so, the president's budget has proposed to eliminate us as a critical access hospital. But since the president's budget has never passed, it's had no impact on us. If it passes, with a change of leadership, this is an issue that Mr. Spikers has taken leadership on. What would we do if we lost our critical access status and our enhanced reimbursement provisions?
Yeah, and I would put that dead center under the threat column under SWOT analysis. That's an issue. We don't know to what extent the issue will impact us, but I think it's safe to assume that there is going to be some modifications at some point that will have an impact.
Thank you.
That's a really good point. And, as we kind of surface some of these things, they might very well stimulate a more in-depth conversation when we do our breakout teams. and we start, really looking at the strategic priorities, because SWOT is a very important precursor to strategic development. I mean, the whole idea of strategic planning, I call it as simple as the ABCs. Point A, where you are today, your current situation, your current condition. Things you have control over, things you don't have control over. They're both identified by SWOT. Strengths, weaknesses within your control. Opportunities and threats, external, outside of your control. I realize that some of the opportunities you identified were within your control, but animal retention planners like me call that strategy, not opportunity. A strategy is something, an opportunity is something you do not have control over that you either choose to seize or not address. Anyway, chapter 2 of my book, I'll stop. Everybody's getting, I got the gunpoint thing. I get it. But the point is, that's point A. Point B is articulating your vision, where it is you want to be, how you identify and positively articulate your future. And we can talk about that when we get to that point, our last agenda item before our wrap-up. And then step C is merely bridging the gap between where you are and where you want to be. And that's what informs the strategic development process and the conversation about trade-offs and the conversation about the likelihood of threats changing our environment, our micro-environment or our macro-environment. Macro in terms of our industry, micro in terms of, the slab of concrete that we're standing on, this facility. So, and these are the kind of conversations and the input that we really encourage, because they do have bearing. So, thank you for that. Pardon me. So, high-level overview of industry. You've got 30 pages. Actually, maybe it's 29 pages because I pull out some of them. By the way, I bought this report. I pay a subscription. This is not my data. First Research, which is Dun & Bradstreet Company. It's really interesting is I have access to First Research. These reports can get kind of expensive. You can spend $10,000 on a report. I didn't spend $10,000 on this. But the point is that I have access to all of that at the university for free. But I can't use it for anything other than academic purposes. So my company has this, we're a growth strategies company. We do marketing research, we do strategic planning, we do brand development, we do revenue acceleration, all those things. We're very, very steep in research and planning, which is, we're doing both with you here. But the point of all that is that this information informs what the heck we're doing, so that we're not just developing strategy willy-nilly. So, definitely do the deep dive in that. It is, First Research is very well respected, and that's why we subscribe and buy their products. Needs assessment. This is that big document that is the data. It's has the blue cover. How long ago was that done? I'm assuming that was
done last year.
Oh, so it's very fresh.
Very fresh.
Great. Okay. So just a couple. There's a lot there, especially in terms of demographics, et cetera. And I really do encourage you to go through that before August 29th. I just pulled out a couple areas. Your service footprint. And here's what's interesting. Out of the 21 surveys that were completed, 19 of them were from North Bend, from this code. I took note of it. Another thing I took note of is that 100% of our sample is females. Yeah, we need a bigger sample. 100 is kind of a minimum standard because that gets you under 10% plus or minus. And we're not trying to get a pharma product approved through the FDA. We don't have to have a sample of trials of 1,500.
The reason it's that is because between 80 and 90% of the healthcare decisions made are made by the women.
Yes, have been forever and probably always will be. They're frankly a better steward of family health and nutrition.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes, that's exactly right. It absolutely is that way, and that's true for a lot of categories. But when I've never seen 100% before. So we want to engage. We want to engage some males, but again, this isn't anything that is surprising. You've had this document for a while, but it is informative in the strategic development process. So this was something, this is where Tom gave me some advice, and I really appreciated. And these are 8 categories of significant health needs. And again, this is focused on our area, in our area. Access to health care, cancer, heart disease, lung disease, mental health, obesity, preventive practices in terms of vaccines and screenings and smoking. You notice this is in bold, and that's because we are way over-indexed in our service footprint against state averages. I mean, this is a big deal for us. And you certainly wouldn't know that,
Now, is that based on data collected, that he collected, or is that based on the data that he got from the meetings that he had? that Joe had?
No, this has nothing to do with Joe.
Okay.
What this data is this is the community health needs assessment that was conducted by a firm for Overlake.
And you pulled out our stuff?
And then I had them pull out our service area. Yeah.
Okay. Do we know how?
But
Public
this is a
One second here, I want to get to everybody. So,
I'd like to hear what Kim said again. What did you say that was?
A lot of that comes from public health records as well as medical claims data.
Okay, so if you made a claim or if you had a problem that was related to obesity or high blood pressure, that would be documented.
You're given a diagnosis of obesity in your medical record.
Got it.
and so our area is over-indexed. I saw both Jean and Emma's hand. Jean, your hand goes up first. I want to bring you
In
to the
addition
conversation.
to this, we borrowed from Overlake, and it's nice that we could do that. We did our own community needs assessment 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay.
One of the differences in this presentation and what we isolated in that study was that we have a higher than state average suicide rate. And yet I don't see that listed here.
Mental health.
Maybe it falls under the
Yeah,
mental health.
it would be under mental health.
But, I mean, so this would be the root cause, and then the outcome would be suicide. So, good point. Yeah, and I haven't compared the 2 different reports. This one has a little fresher shelf life, but that's a good point. So was the needs assessment 2 years ago, did it indicate that we had a higher than average suicide rate in our service footprint area?
Yes.
Okay.
Emma?
Yeah, I think there's also a higher number of diabetics in the area, and it's not included there. Is that under overweight and obesity, or what?
That's really interesting because it's kind of that chicken and egg thing. It's the mental health that can cause everything from chemical dependency, depression, and suicide. And obesity and being overweight, a morbidity or comorbidity of that would be diabetes. There's also new data related to this and cognitive disorders that has come out fairly recently in some of my reading. So, this is not an exhaustive list, but this is the list that they came up with as where we should focus.
Secondary data, it says. Is there a primary data?
Primary data is if you've actually you've interviewed all of the individuals who make up the data.
Okay.
Secondary is that they went to data sources, the ones that Dr. Lickup talked about.
Okay.
So it's actually not identifying that this is secondary to another data set. It's that this is from existing records. Primary research is what I did in interviewing all of you. I went right to the horse's mouth. That's a good explanation.
You look on page.
Mental health can cover a lot of things.
Yes, it's a big category.
Including drug abuse. The opiate and heroin abuse problem is considered to be very serious in that area. That area means Seattle. And if it's 27 miles away in Seattle, you know it's here.
Right.
And we recently at a board meeting had a high school student that came up and spoke during the public comment section. He says, you folks don't understand what's going on in the high school with these drugs and drug abuse. So I don't see that on the list as a specific
Yeah, and I can attest to the group that did the work. Everything you're saying is right. In fact, there was a press release yesterday in terms of the state of Washington that said for the first time in history, opiate abuse, actually in terms of intakes, actually exceeded alcohol abuse intakes. It was like 3,000 compared to 2,700 for the state for the last cycle. So yes, it's huge. Tom?
I'd like to comment on both of those.
You want to give people a page number?
Yeah, page number. So back to diabetes. We could take a look at page 21. Page 21 of the report is where diabetes is treated, and you can see that we are at the average of Washington State. We're higher than King County. And with a lot of these, you can say, well, you know what? We're no higher than our neighbors, or we're no higher than the state. But the question I think next is, well, are we really okay with just saying we're no higher than anybody else? And then with respect to drug dependence and abuse, page 16 treats that. A couple of data points. The first is the drug-related death rates. You can see our death rate compared to King County. Again, we're low, but is that acceptable? And then the other is the alcohol dependence and abuse, and we're, essentially on par with King County.
So you bring up really good points. Go ahead.
And this is Snoqualmie, North Bend is what it's in here, so that doesn't get, if you get closer to Issaquah, you're going to see a little bit of difference than closer to Kittitas, because the population is denser. So it's not looking at our whole, because our line goes up to High Point.
Okay.
So there's a little bit of...
And it's not looking at all.
Carnation.
Carnation or Fall City.
Yeah, Fall City or
Or
Carnation.
up the path.
Yeah.
So this is my recommendation.
We were limited to the way they had set up the data.
Yeah.
All of these points, because we kind of went under the table with somebody else's report.
Correct.
Which is a good thing, in that we could pull out what we could. So this is exactly what this review is meant to do, is to stimulate this kind of discussion. And what I would recommend, and I'm not kiboshing the discussion, but as a point of preparing for our August 29th session, is that you'll have time to go through all this. And what I recommend as you go through all the data is that you actually notate things that are important to you that you want to bring up when we break into teams, to have those discussions, so that as your teams are developing the strategic priorities under the strategic focus areas of your team, that you actually can draw on that data, draw on that information. Yeah, this is just a very, very high level and cursory overview. We definitely want to dig into the data before the 29th. So key research findings. Is this a touch screen?
It's not.
So do I have a mouse? I need to touch that. Because that's a hyperlink. Okay. Thank you. And so I'm going to ask you to kind of scroll as we go through here. So this is just a very high-level overview showing the dominant themes of these 9 interviews. What do you believe the hospital currently does to increase our perceived value? And you can see that this is really, a wide dispersion of data. The lunch and learns and outreach, satellite clinics, the number in parentheses identify how many times it was mentioned. I didn't document anything that was only mentioned once. Again, we're trying to surface the dominant themes. But you can see here is that it's really dispersed. There's no one dominant theme. Our employees and caregivers, clear demonstrated strength, high quality of care and service. What do you believe currently maybe decreases our perceived value? Another way of looking at weaknesses. 3 votes at dysfunctional politics, 3 votes at lack of outreach and marketing. Would you like to see these things addressed? Scrolling to 3, thank you, Kim. Here, you've got more of a dominant theme. You've got over half of you identified this thing. So what unmet health care or wellness need in the community do you believe that we should address that would actually increase perceived value? This is definitely a dominant theme. Preventative wellness programs, e.g. public health, exercise, substance abuse, obesity, and diabetes. Isn't that interesting that the things that you were talking about showed up in what was important to you? To me, that is not surprising. That is validating. That's a good thing, that you're all seeing it the same way. But I can tell you right now that I'm doing program management work for the Snohomish County Health Leadership Coalition. And one of those initiatives that I'm managing right now is Live Healthy 2020. And our entire focus is to improve the health and economic vitality of Snohomish County. We've got business, education, government, social services, faith-based communities, and this is a collective impact model. The point is that everything we're doing is focused on nutrition and physical activity, exercise, because they have the greatest impact on the most significant morbidity and mortality in our society. You guys saw before, cancer, heart disease, hypertension, diabetes. All of these things can be incredibly impacted by nutrition and physical activity. So when I see you guys talking about this and this, you're just so right on. Anyway, so when I see a dominant theme, I really emphasize it. All at 2 votes, more outreach and communications. So you can see that more promotion, more outreach, more marketing is a reoccurring theme. In terms of the planning session, we really built the agenda. Yes, Gene?
Well, just on item 4 there, you said you didn't list where there was only one.
Yes, this is a typo.
To existing goals.
Yeah, this was a typo. I'm sorry. It actually is supposed to say 2.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, in fact, maybe in your own documents, you could put 2 in parentheses. Yeah, I noticed that this morning when I was building the PowerPoint, and that was operator error on my part. But it did, in fact, have 2 votes. So, in terms of our planning session, what outcome do you want the team to achieve? Pardon? Or you're trying to find it?
Yeah.
It's right after the community health needs
Could you give them the page number? You
There's
probably.
no page.
was.
It's 37.
So after page 37 in the data,
After
There you
page
go.
37, there's no number.
yeah, there's no number on that.
It says interview diet.
Yeah.
So this is just the
Right here.
commissioners' responses.
Commissioner and leadership. I interviewed all 9 of you.
Oh, he's in there.
Yeah. This is the aggregate of the 9 of you. I put all of the, as you know, I spend about 15 and 20 minutes with each of you. And I put everything into a spreadsheet. And I didn't include the spreadsheet. I have the spreadsheet. It's because the spreadsheet identifies individual people. And the whole point of this was to provide a confidential environment to maintain the anonymity of folks. And so I know what individuals said. What one person said is not as important as the dominant themes that surface in everybody. But I've got, a whole spreadsheet of all of this, and so I and only I tabulated this data. No eyes have ever seen that database other than myself, not even my research director.
So it's commissioner and the exec team.
It's commissioner and exec team, that's right. I interviewed all 5 commissioners and all 4 leaders that are around the table. And everybody, it was very surprising. Usually about 30-40% of the people miss their scheduled appointment. Valerie, didn't you schedule all these? You're my new best friend. I did not have one person not show up for a meeting. We might have rescheduled 1, but I mean, it was just, that was very impressed. That just says everybody's taking this seriously. It says you know how to schedule. Anyway, it was a wonderful experience and a very lean outcome. So, this is what we wanted. And we've already kind of set the stage, but 4 votes. Get us all on the same page with the spirit of compromise. Are all of you going to agree 100% on everything? No. I don't want you to. Otherwise, you only need 1 of you if you all agree on everything, right? But having a spirit of compromise, the spirit that I'm experiencing in this room ever since I've been here, become more visionary, think bigger picture. In other words, don't get too detailed. Do not have the usual knockdown, drag out. I think that this was referring to traditional board meetings. Or get too detailed conversations. We've already talked about this. We're not doing detailed conversations. We're doing an overview and we're talking about high-level strategy. Give honor to the existing goals. That's why we included the strategic planning brochure. We're not saying we're bound by those, but there was some work that was put into there. Not from the current leadership team, but you certainly can review it.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
Oh, you were all part of that? Oh, okay.
Yeah, we were part of it.
Okay.
All of us weren't, but they were.
Gotcha. And maybe that's what you meant by you wanted to have
Everybody.
fresh buy-in with everybody. So we can be informed by that, but we're not going to be directed by it. We're going to be directed by the new strategic priorities that you determine based on all this. And 5, thank you, Kim, we should go on the road together. What concerns do you have regarding the session? Well, it's kind of nice when that just happens automatically.
Is that like petty concerns or pet concerns? That we don't get bogged down or hijacked into pet? Is it petty concerns or
It's
pet?
pet concerns.
Oh, pet concerns.
Yeah, like
Okay.
you might have one person that maybe just has a pet issue. And so all of this, I actually used words that were used.
Okay.
I did not interpret. So this approach is called Voice of the Customer. And to honor the people that participate, you actually use their adjectives and attributes. And so I actually used your words in this. So 4 people identified that as an issue. 1 or more person identified it, maybe not as pet, but individual or whatever. But pet came up a couple of times. That we were going to be open-minded, civil, and work together. That kind of just reinforced them back up over here. And then lastly, do you have anything else you'd like to share? I had, I think, 4 out of the 9 that said sure. Most people said no. But there were just individual comments. A few, there was no dominant theme. They're all individual. However, a couple things that came out of that said, sure, there's been some dysfunction. Sure, there's been some, a little bit of political distress. But several people say it's getting better. Several people, I'm not talking about 1 or 2, half the group identified at some point during this that they actually see improvement, that things are getting better. And so while it didn't show up in one category, it kind of permeated the conversation. And while people identified concerns, and there were some common denominators there, I'd be remiss if I didn't point out that there were several folks that identified seeing positive progress.
That's because we have hope that we can do it and we want to do it better.
Well, I just thought that was important. So that was the result there.
I think it's important.
You can actually close out of that, and it will automatically go to the PowerPoint. Thank you. Any questions? I'm a technology nerd. Sorry. Actually, I'm not sorry.
No.
We like this. This is good.
This actually works pretty well.
It speeds things up rather than going back and forth. So, any questions, any other comments or questions about the commissioner leadership interviews before we go on to the key findings of the community data? That's the community survey. Okay. I got control again, and then I'm going to ask Kim to go ahead and click on that link, and I should have it already blown up. I pre-programmed it to blow it up. Yeah, it's very. So let's go ahead and scroll down. And we're just going to look. We're just going to talk the top level here, right here. So right at this area, if we scroll up just a half inch more, perfect. So first of all, we asked the same question several times in this survey. We asked a screening question: have you personally or with a family member experienced the hospital? Yes or no? It was about half and half, 10 to 11. And then if they said yes, they got the questions formatted in a way that says, based on their personal experience, what did you value? What would you like to see improved? What service would you like to see added? If they said no, they had the same 3 questions, but it was reworded to, based on your perception, how do you think the community values? And then we did the same set of questions for the clinics. And so what I did is I aggregated all of the responses for what they value most, what they wanted to improve, and what they would add. Yes?
My question is, if you've asked them if they've experienced the hospital, we've had a hospital for 40 years.
The question was actually worded. In fact, if you go to the actual, you can actually see the way the question was worded.
The experience past year.
Yeah, this is all
And
based.
that's what I wanted to
Yeah,
know.
and
Okay.
this was actually, this is your leadership saying, hey, we want this rated on the new hospital.
I think
And that was
that's
very
legit.
pragmatic.
Yeah, because too often we base our experience on something in the past, and it determines the rest
Right.
of our behavior.
And so we said in the last 12 months, and I
Yeah.
realize we're in our 14th month, give or
That's
take
all
a
right.
few
That's
days.
great.
But that really gets us to the new facility. So that was a really good question. So essentially, I took all of it and aggregated it, whether they had a personal experience or they had a personal perception, right?
Okay.
And perceptions, we're growth strategy folks, and so I go by Einstein's definition is people do not respond to reality. They respond to their perception of reality, even if their perception is inaccurate. We still have to respond to it. So I'm a marketing person by trade and have been for 35 years. And so when I'm teaching a marketing class at the U, I say if the customers are confused about our value proposition, whose fault is that? The producer or the consumer? And clearly it's the producer's fault. If the consumers are confused, shame on us as producers or the owner of the company with the value proposition. So even if they are inaccurate perceptions, we need to know what those inaccuracies are, especially the dominant themes. So what they value most, huge dominant theme, biggest theme here. 16 folks identified that it's a local location. They like that they've got something here. Where's the nearest facility? Is it Swedish in Issaquah?
Yes.
Okay.
9 miles away.
9 miles away.
As the crow flies.
Yeah, and that 9 miles could take you.
No, measured by actual speedometer measurement and map.
Gotcha.
Okay.
And that 9 miles could take 10 minutes or an hour.
Okay.
Depending. Yes.
If we had a wider response, because for me, going to Swedish, coming here, same difference. It's a long time.
Gotcha.
It'd be
Well,
shorter to go,
Yeah,
I don't know
and
where.
keep in mind that 19 of these 21 people are from the 045 area code.
Yeah, North Bend.
So they're having to travel a little bit for here. But they are saying
Sorry, what did you say, 19 to 21 people? What?
19 out of 21 respondents were from the
North
05,
Bend.
excuse me, the 045 zip code.
North Bend.
They're from North Bend.
Almost all from North Bend.
What does that tell you?
That's amazing.
So
It tells you people from
residents
North Bend are
may be
used to it.
bypassing our
Yeah.
hospital.
Well, what it tells us, they didn't take the survey.
Yeah, but.
Yeah, and correlation doesn't always equate to causation.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting dialogue, interesting conversation.
And people are, if you're coming from North Bend, this is closer than going to Overlake or to Swedish or Overlake. So it's closer.
Not,
Yeah,
no, if you're living a block from the hospital or 2 blocks, that's pretty close.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I think Gary was saying, for people in Preston,
Swedish is closer.
a little closer.
Yeah, a lot. Well, yeah, you're right, Gene, because where it is right now, it doesn't take long at all.
Well, and I'll tell you what, I mean, you could guess anything that you want.
Yeah,
The
you're right.
people that responded to this are saying location, location, location.
Yeah.
I mean, what are the 3 things you need to know about retail? Location, location, location. Guess what? Hospital falls in the retail category. Anyway, the point is that it's a very small data set, and your intrepid marketing crew, she must have a dozen people in her department?
Oh,
I'm kidding.
yeah, really.
I'm being
An incredible
facetious.
person.
I can say facetious because I have dyslexia. I mean, I am so dyslexic that I'm actually lexixic. But anyway, that's another story I'm not going to dive into. This is a big finding, and we're going to do everything we can to broaden that sample size, which will add a little bit more validity and reliability. Is there a lot of validity and reliability in 21? No. If we can get to 100, will it be more valid and reliable? Yes. Will it be perfect? No. You want to get under 5%, you got to go to 400. I would argue there is not a cost benefit to you to go from 100 to 400. And I think Tom would agree with this. I don't think it's a cost benefit to shave off 5 points, plus or minus. Range of services, value. So anyway, under what they want to improve, you see these numbers are much lower. Female health, ER department, computer system. I thought it was fascinating. The two people actually identified the computer system. I'm guessing it has to do with intake.
Yeah, as I read the comments, I saw one was, I'm standing here kind of watching the staff use the computer system. I want a faster response from them.
Got it.
They're at the keyboard doing something, and it's a lot. I had this vision also standing at the airport counter and watching the
Ticketing agent.
clicking like mad. I think, how many clicks do you really need?
Right.
I think that was the equivalency of the
Sure,
experience.
and the numbers aren't big enough to have to spend a lot of time on it. Gene?
Under range of services, there are 3 responses out of the 21.
Yes.
Does that mean that 18 did not value our range of services?
What it means is those 18 did not identify it as a key strength. It doesn't mean that it's a weakness. It means that it did not surface as a key strength. So essentially, the value most are what they identify as strengths.
And just to note, this is not a lead. This isn't a check the box. This is
Open-ended data. People type.
It's spontaneously out of
Yeah.
your mind, out of your heart.
It's open-ended essay response.
So it's
Yeah,
not.
if we were
Oh.
to click on the box, we'd
not-
say maybe we missed.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not multiple choice.
Not
No,
multiple
no.
choice.
It's we
That makes a
wanted
difference.
to hear people really spontaneously out of what do they feel, and that's why it did take some time for the culminate or
Pull the data out.
pulling this out.
It takes a human to tabulate.
It's all right here. You can read the responses, but he and his team have tabulated this
Yeah.
for us.
We have pretty darn good quality control in our voice of the customer. Voice of the customer is open-ended. We have 3 different people tabulate. And if they are way off from each other, then we tabulate again as a team. Yes, Gene?
Well, just to note that one improved OBGYN would be speaking to the range of services.
Sure.
Yes.
But I don't see a listing that says we want the range of services improved. But that's an example of one.
That's a
service.
specific service.
Specific.
And this is a specific department, and this is about a specific experience. But I will share with you that these are all under 10% of a small sample. So what I try to do is separate signal from noise in everything that we do. I try to help my clients really fixate on the signal. And so with this small of a sample, this is signal. This is noise.
But more specialists is significant.
Yeah, would add.
Yeah,
and
would
it's
add.
a much higher number.
It's higher than the other 2,
It's higher than everything up there.
other
except
than
for this.
location.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's interesting. I
So-
wonder if telemedicine is going to interface with that more specialist response.
Yeah, possibly. And we don't know what level of understanding the community has in terms of telemedicine and advances in technology. I didn't want to do any deeper dive than just that.
That's helpful, though.
But it is helpful, and again, you can read the full report. You don't need to read, this is like, because of the database, it's like 30 pages.
It's interesting is if we had done this survey just like this 2 years ago, I would think that location would not have come up there. So I am glad to see that that's the one kind of sentinel.
And it's organic.
Yeah.
It
is
came up organically.
Yeah,
It was
we
not a
didn't
choice.
We didn't ask them if they liked the location.
No.
They just said it.
Yeah.
I disagree with that point because I think what we're pitching to the people is the best care is near home. This is home. So if we had done this survey when we had the old hospital, I think location would have been a strong response again.
And maybe it would have shown up more as a weakness than as a strength, possibly.
Yeah.
I would like to see us wait until we get a wider response.
I think Joan has a really good suggestion. Would you say it a little bit louder to everybody to hear?
We need to wait till we get a wider response, and I don't know how that's all going to happen, because somebody needs to project it.
It's actually happening right now as we speak. I think that's a really pragmatic suggestion to move on to
Because
the next. So we go ahead and click out of that.
Those of us who live in the lower part of the
Excellent.
district.
It's a small sample.
Okay, so our last part of analysis, and by the way, we're right back on time. We're going to take a short break in 6 minutes. Rarely do the breaks land right on time. You guys are good. I think it's more about you than me. So let's just look at the high level of SWOT. I went through and just did a quick tabulation today. The dominant strengths of everybody. By the way, was it all of these folks?
It was this group, and it was our management team.
Got it. Great. Great. So out of all of that, the dominant strengths, high quality staff, high quality care, and we have a solid infrastructure. You know, we're talking about technology and facility. Identifying our infrastructure is a strength. Dominant weakness, capacity in terms of our size, in terms of our range of services. Those are the two things that came out under the capacity. And lack of community engagement was the next biggest thing. And in third place was our financial condition. One person identified it as debt, you know, but a lot of people talked about financial resources and strains and things like that. So number 1, number 2, number 3. So these are areas within our control. Opportunities, the dominant themes is we could, and again, this is more strategy than things we can't control. It doesn't matter. It's really good stuff. Increased collaboration and partnerships was one group, and increasing our promotion. And they're talking about outreach, marketing, you know, really the more marketing we do, the idea is the more control we have of how we're perceived. And so those are the opportunities. So these, what they're saying is these are strategic directions. We need to increase our collaboration and our partnerships, and we need to increase our outreach. So in the private sector, we talk about marketing and promotion. In government, we talk about communications and outreach. When we're dealing with government, marketing isn't a favorable term. But the promotion word was used. Again, these are your words. And then finally, the dominant threat. Competition, not being able to meet community needs, which kind of reinforces the weakness. Those were the dominant themes that came up. Hope I'm not predicting anybody getting car sick like this thing. Anyway, so that just kind of aggregates, synthesizes, and presents the dominant themes. Any questions about this before we take our break?
I just think we got to remember we're $100 million in debt, approximately. So in terms of threats, I should see something about financials.
Well, you should have written it.
Well, I'll tell you why you see it up here instead of here. Threats are external conditions outside of your control. Weaknesses are things within your control. So it's up here because you actually can influence that. You can't really influence.
Yeah, except that the government threats to remove us as a critical
Yes.
hospital is an external threat.
That is an external threat. That is absolutely correct. That is absolutely correct.
That should also fall under competition.
Pardon me?
That it would also fall under competition. We're competing with other
Yes.
hospitals and
Absolutely.
other, you know.
You're competing in the public mind.
Right.
You're competing in the government's mind. You're competing.
So that's where that,
Scarce
yeah,
dollars.
just
Yeah,
overall.
absolutely. Okay, any other comments or questions of our review before we take a break, and when we get back together, I'll prime our next exercise.
I'll just comment that is a lot of data, and your summary got us through all that. And I'm actually I'm surprised how quickly we consume so much information. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And that's the whole point about separating signal from noise. And rather than looking at the entire portfolio of data, look at the dominant themes and the common denominators that surfaced. And so that's why I went ahead and just did a tabulation on that. But I'm glad that you feel that this is useful, and this high-level overview will inform our next and last exercise of the day. And again, I'm going to say it several times, you will dig into that 100-page report in preparation of our session on August 29th. So, because we're doing so well on time, usually I cut the break short. I'm not going to do that. We'll have a full 15 minutes, which means we're going to be back here at, in terms of my clock at 13 after. So, remember I said I was retentive? I don't want you to take a 15-minute break. I want you to take a 14-minute break. Be back here in 14 minutes, ready to go. Thanks, everybody. Nice work.
Okay, now the...
This is how being retentive. I have a slide that says your level with these sessions.
Okay.
The strategic plan needs to be owned by all
I
of
know, but I
us.
was saying, I know, but there's
Okay.
9 of us there, so 5 out of 9, so 5 voted and.
That's a
3 didn't.
majority, yeah, a majority voted for promote over improve, and since I already had a majority, there was no need to call the other 4. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, yes. Go
Okay.
ahead.
And I kind of use David's language before, it's not a liability. Either way, it's not a liability.
Yeah.
Okay, nice work. Let's move on to vision. Our current vision statement. We will safeguard the health of our community. Now, I would just share some best practices. I'm not going to give you language, because that's your job. This is stating as something that you aspire to, which is about half the vision statements out there. The other half, and so I'm not advocating either way, actually articulates the vision as it already happened. Other words, it's stating
It's something we are doing.
something that you are doing or already did.
Yeah.
So
It's
does
like,
that mean
we safeguarded,
We are
we
present.
safeguarded the health in our community. That's just an example. It doesn't mean anything. I'm just saying you could do it in different ways. Pardon me?
We are
We
safeguarding.
are, yeah, stating it as the positive as opposed to the passive.
I don't like
Or you
Okay,
could-
well, don't go
It's
for
a
it.
vision, though. It's supposed to look to the future. So
I
I'm
agree.
thinking it's just fine.
Yeah, so,
I think this is a status quo statement, safeguarding the health. This is actually in contradiction to improving the health of our community. I would like to say, if we're just going to change one word, is we will enhance the health of our community rather than safeguard, which is status quo.
because you think it's a little bit better aligned with the mission.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't either.
Let me get some, I want to track some notes here.
We want to help you. Some of us don't like it at all. We just,
Well, and we're gonna get into a
Okay.
deeper conversation here.
huh?
Staff say something?
Yeah, Steph did say something.
The word safeguard seems passive to me.
I like the word protect.
That's, and I think, Gene, that's
First
where you're coming
status
in. Yeah.
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 We got to do more than safeguard what we have. We've got to
And-
improve.
Mhm.
And if we
Yeah,
don't,
it's
we're
not
gonna
active,
fail
it's
under the
passive.
Yeah.
Affordable
You're
Care
right.
Act.
That's what, yeah.
We will ration the health of our
Oh, good, James.
Whoa, whoa.
Oh, you were using death penalty.
ACA.
How was Cleveland?
I'm curious, you made a point that you don't like it at all.
I really
I'm just
don't.
wondering how many people feel that way. In other words, that you're open to doing something brand new. You can only vote once, thumbs up whether you don't like it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's unanimous, we don't like it. Do we want to work and improve it, or do you want to start from scratch? Because I can facilitate either way. Want to start from scratch? Great. You know what?
Do you want to?
I actually prepared for this.
Okay.
I've done a lot of, I'm going to show you something that's a really cool technique that will take a 2-hour visioning process down to 45 minutes.
Now,
From scratch.
we also have someone that has an idea of what they'd like it to say.
I got an idea too, Dad.
Yeah.
Oh, we got two. We got
People.
a couple.
Well, I tell you what,
Okay.
let me show you the exercise. I actually have it
Okay.
farther in the deck
Okay.
because I didn't assume. Let me just show you this really quick. This is a vision exercise. It's called headlines. What we do is we brainstorm headlines 10 years out into a vision. And the idea is, what will the media write about Snoqualmie Valley Hospital's amazing accomplishments in short phrases? It's like a brainstorming thing. We'll do one full page of like 3 to 5 word headlines. And then we go through a process of consolidating, deleting the similar concepts. We have a shorter list. And then you go through and you get sticky dot votes. And the winner we use as a placeholder to start crafting a vision. That way you're not just throwing up arbitrary ideas. However, I want to hear some arbitrary ideas because it may mean that we don't need to do this exercise. This is just an exercise that works really well to come up and frame a vision statement.
Well, I'm suspicious that these are not arbitrary, but been planned
Well,
out.
I'd like to
by
hear
the
them. I think
individuals.
everybody would. So you both have ideas?
Yes, you agree. Yes.
Let's hear it.
Ours is simple. We will have a healthy community.
Okay? That meets all the criteria of best practice vision. We will have a healthy community. You have one too?
Mine is not a vision, I'll just say right now, it's not a vision statement because it's too long.
Okay?
But it captures concepts, I think, important to just me.
Okay, so
My
let me
vision of
get,
our future.
Kim, would you please give me yours again real quick?
We will have a healthy community.
Now, we're talking about a headline that might appear 10 years out.
So Common Valley has a healthy community.
Yeah, we can change the tense later. I just wanted to get that up there. So let's hear yours.
It's long. I
Can you give us
apologize.
the short version?
No, I want to read the whole thing.
How long is it?
It's 2 sentences.
Okay, let's hear it.
Okay. We will thrive financially to give ourselves the freedom to dream, plan, and respond. In so doing, we will direct our energies to create highly satisfied patient experiences, improve the health of our communities, and create a highly satisfying workplace for providers and staff.
Okay, I got all the way through dream.
I know.
Give it to
I
me,
know.
but no, I know, you wanted everybody to hear the whole thought.
Right. So what it is it's financial strength that then leads to some really important activity or outcomes. Financial strength that allows us to have great patient experiences, a healthy community, and a satisfying workplace.
Okay, so I got through dream. Give it to me in pieces to finish the. So we
Dream,
can have it on
dream,
paper.
plan, and respond.
I've heard that before.
And that's the end of that first
That's
sentence?
the end of that first sentence.
Give me the second sentence.
In so doing,
The goal is.
we will direct our energies
Okay.
to create highly satisfying patient experiences.
Just a second.
Yep.
Okay.
Improve the health of our community.
Okay.
And create a highly satisfying workplace.
Too many words.
I know, I know. But these are
And
the
create a what?
highly satisfying workplace for providers and staff. And I know it's not a vision statement.
Highly satisfying.
So I don't.
All my comments I just take off.
I know, and I've struggled with this.
Highly satisfying what?
Workplace for providers and staff.
So,
But
this feels like a philosophy statement, which I think it has, but I think it has a place.
okay, thank you. Thank you. These are concepts that were so important to me
Yeah.
but I didn't know where to land them, so I threw them in here at this point.
I have an idea, because I've
Okay.
actually been through this process before.
All right.
And what we did is we called it a value statement, and then we took those 3 things and put them bullets under the opening statement. In other words, what I'm saying is you could have this as a value statement and still keep a vision. Because you're right, these have to do, these are aspirational, which is
They
in
are.
fact the purpose of a vision statement.
Right.
But
If all this does is serve as a backdrop for some concepts as we think about a new vision statement, I'm happy with that. It doesn't have to live.
I would like to hear from some other people about what you've crafted here. Gene?
Must I respond to that, or can I present my own idea?
You can present, well, I tell you what, let's present your own idea, and then we'll respond to all the ideas.
Okay. All right, I keep focusing on brainstorm headlines. What would we like to see in the newspaper? And what I've come up with is Valley residents healthier from hospital initiatives and leadership.
Let me get that up there. Say that again, please, Jim.
Valley residents healthier from hospital initiatives and leadership.
Healthier from,
Healthier, and I said
Just reading.
from,
yeah,
we can use other prepositions, but from hospital initiatives and leadership.
So I want to put all of these together. And then I'd like to go around the room and get people's thoughts and comments. I'm going to do a little bit of hash marking here. Need to make sure that everybody can see what we've got going here. Okay, so what I want comments on are the things with asterisks. I've done asterisks. I've separated asterisks between bullets. So I'd like to go around the room and have anybody comment that wants to on preferences or suggestions. So under review, and by the way, if we don't really come to a consensus, that's fine, then we'll run the headlines exercise. And that will actually lead us to a nominal group effect. We will have a healthy community, or we have, however, whatever the tense is, but that's the thought. And I don't want to, in this, just start wordsmithing stuff. I just want conceptually what you think. Next, we will thrive financially to dream, plan, and respond. In so doing, we will direct our energies to create highly satisfied patient experiences, improve the health of our community, and create a highly satisfying workplace. Next, Valley residents are healthier from hospital initiatives and leadership. So we're not choosing one of these, by the way. What I'd like to know is what you are thinking about these three things. I want to know what you like and what you don't like. Yeah, go ahead.
The how to help a community is really simple and kind of encompasses an outcome of what the second one is if I wake up at 2 in the morning and say, okay, what are the pieces we need to do to run this place successfully? Well, we got to thrive financially. I think that's on the CFO. So, and then we need to be visible in the community, satisfy patients, and have a good workforce. So, Tom, yours is kind of
It's more operational.
an operational, but it's how we get there.
And that's what I was going to say about my own.
Yeah.
I was going to raise my say. I don't like this as a vision. I like it as a means to get to the vision.
Means the end.
And
Goals. It's how we get there.
That's what I thought. The word goals is exactly what came to my mind.
And
Those are
G's
goals.
is, that's the headline I want to see.
I love that.
Yeah, I love that headline. So, and it shows that, okay, gee, we kind of did that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what the headlines exercise is designed to do. Typically, they're 3 or 4 words, and this would be the result. You know, after you pick one, then you frame it, because this is a complete thought. So let me unpack that, and then we'll continue going around the room. Somebody said their goals. It's kind of interesting. I'm going to circle the goals. Thrive financially. Highly satisfied patient experiences. Improve the health of the community. Highly satisfying workforce. So we have these 3 goals here.
4.
I'm sorry, 4. Yeah, I've actually underlined 4 things. 3
There you
and
go.
4.
Yeah.
If we're thriving financially, we create highly satisfying patient experiences, we improve the health of our community, and we create a highly satisfying workplace. You actually could create that into 4 core value statements. That's why I said these are more values. And it's not uncommon that you see mission, vision, values in the same document. So this could be driving us towards a vision, or it could literally create your core values.
It could also inform our strategic pathways.
Oh, absolutely. Well, that's why you do mission, vision, values before you develop strategy.
I would like to see the word patient safety, protect patient safety, and deliver quality care,
That would be
as well as thrive financially. So those would be the
We've got thriving
that's
financially up here, but the
that's-
ad thing is patient safety.
patient safety, that's one of them.
I would say patient well-being, because then it's not just their safety, but we make them well. It's everything.
When they feel safe,
Well,
they're
and
well.
that also includes mental health, what Ariel's suggesting. Well-being can include mental health. I think that should be linked to Tom Parker's list of goals myself, the safety business. You know, we have satisfied workforce, patient population, we have safe patients or
But if
safe
you are-
work practices.
So, I'm going to touch on a few folks I haven't heard from.
Yes.
I haven't heard from Jay, I haven't heard from Dave or Joan. I don't think, well, we've got some of your thinking up there already. So I'd like to hear from some people. You are just too damn verbose. We can't even get a word in edgewise around you, Jay.
Except the digs.
I would really like to hear your unbiased opinions here.
You know, I think the vision statement should be succinct, short, and kind of like what David said, you know, aspirational.
Mhm. Those are all best practices.
Yeah.
You're not going to have any facilitator or an expert planner disagree with that.
Yeah.
Excellent. David, do you have anything else you want to chime in on this?
You know, this is like the third time I've gone through this. And so,
It's too bad you haven't gotten it right yet. Well, no, when I say you, I mean you collectively. I'm not picking on him.
Some of us
I-
didn't
you
go
know,
through
I'm picking on you.
See the enemy in his name.
you know,
That's right.
Us newbies
I
don't
know
have steak.
what people, I like to get things done, and I like to really
Yeah.
And you like
delve
them to
into
happen
getting
fast.
things done than, you know, seeing words shifted around when we all have the same goals in reality here. We all do. It's not nothing, I mean,
It's just how we say it.
yeah, and you know, I'd rather not waste so much time on changing things and doing things. Let's get to what we really, really need to do here. And that's how I feel.
Although, I remember that when we talked about changing the vision statement, you were one of the thumbs up.
I thought it was just going to be one word.
Oh.
Done with it, and boom, let's
Got it.
go.
1 second, Gene. I've heard from you several times. I'm going to go around the room. I'm going to put you on hold just for a second. Joan, how do you chime in about this?
Well, I agree that Tom's should be a plan or whatever.
Or a set of core values?
Yeah, core values. I like we will have a healthy community because it's a vision of what will be. And that's what vision means to me.
Okay.
Although that, I mean, that just seems too detached from us, our organization. You know, that could be dependent on so many other variables that we
Have no
You're-
control of.
Yeah.
Sure. And I will share that, that's accurate, but I will share this, is that we do not hold vision statements to accuracy like we do mission statements. One of my favorite vision statements isn't even true, but it completely changed the culture and galvanized a company. And so I'll give you the vision statement, and you tell me what company it is. We are recognized as the premier automobile manufacturer in the world. Toyota? Who else? Lexus. Lexus is the number one answer I get when I ask that.
That's right.
It's not right. It's the number one answer. Yeah. You represent DeLorean. Okay. So who is known as the premier auto manufacturer in the entire globe?
Mercedes-Benz.
Do you know who it is? No, do you know who it did it? It was Ford.
Ford
Yeah,
is gonna
I
be
was
Ford.
thinking.
It was Ford.
Yeah.
Now, by the way, 3 years after that vision was articulated, pretty bold if you ask me, they were the only one of the top 3 that didn't need money from the government.
Yeah.
Complete turnaround. Look, I mean, look at what they produced. The Ford Fusion. I mean, the innovation
Yeah.
is ridiculous.
Don't talk about the Pinto.
Well, this happened after the Pinto. You're talking about blowing up and getting hit from behind?
It was Ron's first car in college.
Yeah. Anyway, you got the idea. The point is that it was wildly audacious, and that's okay. Have you ever heard of a BHAG?
Yeah.
What does
No.
BHAG stand for? Big, hairy, audacious goal. So it was actually a term coined by Jim Collins, who I love. He's an author, but he's a research nerd. He's got several bestsellers out. Built to Last was the first big one, but the one even bigger than that was From Good to Great. It is, I can't tell you how often I reference that, and I use the hedgehog concept and the bus concept. It's just brilliant work, but it's all data-driven. The point I'm trying to say is do not hold your vision to reality. In fact, when we do mission statements, we say, you need to dream big.
Well, actually, we will be the premier critical access hospital in the state of Washington.
We already are.
In the world, let's just put it down, okay?
Done.
Well,
What's that?
globally, critical access means nothing to people seeking health.
Yeah.
That's
true. It's too confined. Hospital.
They just want to be the premier hospital, yeah.
I know, but we want
Renowned.
I know what you're saying.
No,
Yeah.
but it's healthcare we're providing. I'm gonna go back to, we're not just a hospital, we have clinics, we have other things, and I think we need to
This is
have that
obviously
be part of the
important stuff.
vision.
David's going to love me because this is going to shorten our conversation.
Are these targets?
These
You
are what?
might say that. They're pretty small. Can you hit it?
No. So, I'm going to give you a choice based on thumbs up on process. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Yeah, it's bifurcated. You're only going to, I'm going to give you two options. You can only vote for one. Thumbs up. And then we're going to go with the majority on process. So we have two processes available to us. One is you take those sticky dots and you put it under which of the three you prefer. That doesn't mean that you're endorsing an end product. What it does say is that you are choosing which format you want to go with. The headline format, the single statement format, or the goal setting format. Which, by the way, I mean, there are best practices. There are no hard rules. If you want a vision statement that has the sentence and 4 bullets, that's fine. I do have to agree with Jay in best practice. It kind of supports what both Gene and Kim are proposing, is that vision statements are inherently short, concise, and inspiring.
I agree.
They're inspiring.
Just one little note, and that is, we need empathy here to remember that while we may have vision fatigue, the public may see this only one time. It's got to hit them, it's got to grab them. So regardless of what we think is a small group, how is this going to impact the public?
Sure. Yeah, you're not just planning for yourself, you're planning for your constituents. So, I'm going to give you the two options. And based on thumbs up, you're going to choose the process. And then we will work that process. The two process options are, one, you each get to vote on one and only one of these as the concept that we're going to write from. Because you're not voting that it's the final product. You're voting as, I want to go with this idea, I want to go with this idea, or I want to go with this idea. So that's one option. And you got your sticky dots. The other option is that we start from scratch with the headlines exercise. And that entire exercise could easily take us 45 minutes. I'm just, the longest I've ever seen it take is an hour. And we probably don't have time to finish that exercise. It doesn't mean that we can't get most of it done, but there would require some work in between this meeting and that meeting.
You did mention earlier a possible ad hoc committee.
Yeah, that's the
Would that
second.
be how this might be referred to an ad hoc committee?
If we can't get it done.
If we can't get it done today.
If we can't get it done, because I'm going to make sure to leave at least a half hour remaining to identify the focus areas. And I've got a very fast exercise on that. So, are you clear on what you're voting on? You get to vote on one. One process is voting on which of these three concepts, ideas that you like best, and the two is throwing it all away and starting from scratch. So, you can only vote for one. The first option, doing sticky dots. Thumbs up. How many people want to do the sticky dots? Well, it's majority, it's 100%. Done deal. So, this is the option. By the way, this is the faster version. You're going to vote directly underneath the one that you're choosing, and we're going to go from left to right. I don't want to see a bunch of dots scrolling around here. I won't know what to attribute it to. So if you're voting here, we start here and go underneath. If we're voting here, start here and go from left to right. If we're voting here, after leadership, going from left to right. I want everybody to get up there and put their one dot down and take a seat as quickly as possible. There are no right or wrong votes. Vote independently. Vote what you think is most important. You're pretty funny. Jay is taking a whole list,
cannot take
a whole roll with you. Are we having fun or what? You're a good sport.
Well, I like this idea, you get up and you
Yeah,
become
good
awake.
exercise.
Yeah. Hey, kinetic exercises.
Much like
On day 2, you're going to be, I'm going to kinetic the heck out of all of you.
Yeah, I'm just stand.
Okay, excellent. So we have another, the consensus in this room is really quite impressive. So, by the way, that doesn't mean that there's not legs here.
I didn't vote for it.
I'm suggesting that at a later time, in fact, I will even do this for free. I will work with you to craft that into a vision statement with 4 bullets that you can present to your broader group at the beginning of day 2. Because I think that there's real strength in there, and somebody said it could inform, it'll inform our strategic development process. But we're moving off of it. Now, you and I will,
I'm good with that.
I'm really impressed.
I got to express that, and that's what I really wanted.
Well, I think that it's got a lot of legs. By the way, I'm coding everything because I have a team back home. They're going to be organizing all this data.
Okay, now I want to clarify something about me that I don't know if it's true about everybody. But Jean's and Dr. Wicktop's, those are the 2 that I really struggled. And I think Jean's has validity, so I don't know if there's a way to mesh the 2 a little bit, or one's a little too short and one's a little too long. That's my take, my personal take.
Is this for us or for the public? If it's for the
Both.
public, they're not going to read
Both.
a lot of stuff.
That's right.
Right. No, it's for both. It is. So your entire strata, top strata, strategic strata, mission, vision, values, need to inspire and guide you internally, and need to be perceived as valuable on the outside. So it's both. This is not internal language. So, but what we talked about, kind of your point, and I will get right to you, is that you voted on the concept you like best, but I wasn't holding you to this as a final product. So we get to play around with it. But we'll play around with it for 15 minutes and move on, rather than doing a 45-minute exercise. Kim?
In my mind, you also always look at vision and mission together as opposed to standalone. Correct? So it's
That is
sort of
correct, and you also,
your vision.
never look at either of them without the context of the brand. So typically, the best practice is to have the brand, the logo, and then have mission statement, vision statement, value statement. Sometimes they're called core values, sometimes guiding principles. So I've even seen code of conduct. But yes, you don't see them isolated.
I'm just thinking as we start this work, you had a slide that had our mission statement.
Yes.
That we added,
Promote and
so it
improve.
might be helpful just to have it up there. So that
Sure.
we
In
see
fact,
it
who
and
has a
together.
keyboard to this up here? Yeah, that's a really good point, Kim. Okay, if you can type, I would like you to put after promote and improve. Oh, I've got it, I'm sorry, here.
Yeah, you could.
I've got to get you out of that mode. Whoops. There we go. So, scroll, wish it was touch. I actually had one of these as a touch screen, just keep scrolling and rolling and rolling. There it is. So if you can just type in.
Wasn't it improve and promote?
No, we switched
Promote
it.
and improve. Rewrite.
It's promote and improve.
Okay.
You're the one that asked for that change.
Okay, I couldn't remember which.
Okay, so thank you. Let's go ahead and get out of there. I'm going to take it back. Let's that's to day 1. Excuse me, could you take us back to thank you? And then what you're going to need to do is go up there and click slideshow from current slide. There. Do you see this up here? Perfect. And it'll come up automatically. Great. So that was a great idea. Yes, that you see mission statements by themselves all the time. You don't usually see vision without the mission and the value. So your point is 100% correct. But you're saying that we should do this in context. That's a point that Gene made about 20 minutes ago. So this is our working prototype. We will have a healthy community. I'd like to entertain some ideas on how to improve and enhance that. And I believe, Dariel, you had an idea. There was something that you liked up here that you thought could add to that. And so I'm just going to take ideas. I'm not going to do any writing. And then you guys are going to decide which one we're going to do. In the same fashion that you landed very quickly on a revision of the mission statement. So what was your idea?
I don't remember. I'm sorry,
I think she was saying, can we take a portion of Jean's statement
Yeah.
Great, which portion?
blend it into the vision statement that we have
So,
now
thank
got?
you for reminding us of that, and I'd like everybody to look, can you all see this, or
Yeah.
are you blocked? Well, I can, here. I want you to see everything. I'll just move this over here.
I thought that's what your staff is gonna work with, and take those two together and see if they can be more.
No, the staff is gonna work on this one here.
No,
But
that's,
if we're not done in 15 minutes,
Yeah.
we'll do ad hoc.
Okay.
But, so, the topic on the table is to enhance that based on some of Jean's ideas.
I
So
see-
what about Jean, do you like Emma?
I see relationship and strengthen the relationship between, I think the words to strengthen will bring us a healthy community and.
I'm not seeing that here. We're working with this
Valley
one.
residents.
Valley residents are healthier
from
from hospital initiatives and leadership. So what words did you want to add over there?
I'd like to see the strengthen, the word strength, because I want to,
Strengthen what?
yeah, that's what I'm struggling right now to figure out which one would be a better use of the
or improve.
strengthen.
you're
secure or
talking
something.
maybe we will have a healthier community through stronger leadership?
Stronger leadership,
Is that
stronger
what you're saying?
initiative, something like that, yeah.
I don't know about that, but I mean,
Well, how
I
about
think that's what
strong
you're trying to
leadership?
say.
So would you want to add a cause and effect? And
Cause and
cause
effect,
is stuff we've
exactly.
done, so
Yeah.
that's the initiatives, kind of.
Correct.
Yeah, because of our initiatives, we have a healthier community.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the idea.
And
Yeah.
leadership.
I mean, we have it, but how are we going to get there?
That's what you'd like to
Yeah.
read in the newspaper.
Yeah.
Okay, because of our what? Keeping in mind, we want to keep it short. Jean and then Tom.
And let me just say that I have a problem with the word collaborative, because.
This ship sailed, not going to go backwards, sorry. Yeah, one thing that I really insist on is that we never deconstruct the work you already agreed to. So I can't let us do that. We've got a final product here. If you want to go back and tear that apart at a board meeting and start over, you can do that, but not on my watch. I mean, it's just one of the few things I insist on, and it's about being a good steward of your time. So we do not deconstruct what we already approved. Back to this, the idea on the table is that we would add a cause and effect. So we will have a healthy community because of, or due to, or because of X. So what is the X factor?
I'm not going to help you with that.
Well, but, no,
Through
I-
hospital initiatives and leadership. I
Thank you.
think that's what
That's
folks are trying to pick up, and get that.
That's what
into
you
the,
said in your statement.
Great, thank you for helping me finish that. Tom, you're up with a new idea.
Sorry, but you mentioned BHAGs, Big Hairy Audacious Goals.
Yep.
And
We'll call it a BHAG, Big Hairy Audacious Vision.
Vision. So, don't write this, I just want people to think about the concept. Our community will be the healthiest place to live in the country. How does it make you feel? Are you scared of that? Does it inspire you?
Sounds like propaganda.
Like Chamber of Commerce stuff.
I was thinking
It
about...
sounds like
I was
you and
thinking-
Alan Mulally would become best
I was
friends.
thinking about your Ford example.
That's a
You know,
good
what-
thing.
What inspires people, you know?
Say it again.
Our community will be the healthiest place to live in the country.
How about we'll strive to be? I think.
Actually, one thing-
Unrealistic to say we'll be the healthiest place.
One thing, though, is
I'm
if
trying
it's-
to motivate.
But if it says we, there's ownership between hospital and patients, hospital and community.
So what was it, say your statement again?
Our community will be the healthiest place to live in the country.
Would you,
And we can deconstruct that, but,
would you use become, will become?
will become.
That's something to strive for.
Yeah.
Our community becomes the healthiest in the country?
The healthiest place, our community will become the healthiest place to live in the country. And again, we could wordsmith that, we would say, our community will be the healthiest in the country.
Well, they already say that Snoqualmie Ridge is one of the 5 best places to raise children in the country.
And so what was the,
Our community will be the healthiest in the country. You don't have to, you can take out place to live.
No, okay.
Just like Disney World. The happiest
and what was
place.
the other version of that?
The happiest place in the world.
Yeah. So our community will be the healthiest in the country.
Become the healthiest.
Will
Become.
become, that was it, will become.
It's aspirational.
It is,
It's
it's
big.
hugely aspirational. That's why I
Which
said, the
means-
first thing I said, does it make us nervous?
Which means we have to become not just a hospital, but we do have to have clinics. We do have to have things where we change behaviors,
Yes.
where we reach out and interact directly with the community, whether it's alcoholism in our youth, or suicide, or obesity in our adults, poor eating habits in our seniors. We become actively involved in those things.
Well, I'm kind of thinking about some of the threats we talked about earlier about getting declassified or defunded or something.
Yeah.
If I were a government and I was looking at this hospital and another one, and this one is, we promote health, and this one is we're going to become the healthiest community in the country, I'd take note of that. But I'm a fan of BHAGs. I don't have a dog in this. I don't have a vote, and facilitators should never vote.
And remember, we have to hold the CEO accountable to achieve this goal.
It's going to be part of your new performance review, Tom.
Why not?
That means you have to stay here a long time.
You think it's going to take a long time, huh?
We will be running tomorrow at 6 a.m.
The modification that is proposed right now is our community will become the healthiest in the country.
You left out of the, and put a healthiest.
Thank you.
The healthiest.
Seems like it's
Yeah, the healthiest.
And the country, maybe we should
Hospital?
say in the United States.
That's fine.
Well, that's what our country is.
I know,
That's what
but,
Well, most stats go by U.S. Yeah.
I just wanted to check in. I'm completely satisfied with this. I just wanted to check in that when we had our conversation earlier about in our community, and we said we chose in our community for the mission statement because it was a very live, it was dynamic, it changed depending on your where you were applying it. I think that same conversation kind of rolled through here. I'm just mostly doing a check-in to make sure that
Give us an
everyone-
example of what that would look like.
So I see our community as anyone that we come in contact with.
Right.
So we have the people who physically live immediately in our locale, and there are people who don't physically live in our locale, but they have interaction with us nonetheless.
Sure.
There are people who maybe participate in our swim bed program, and so they actually live someplace else, but they come in, and so they now become part of our community. We also have relationships, so vendor relationships or other facilities that are relationships, and they're part of our community, and by engaging with us, we can make them healthier.
We also
It's
have,
not just physical health, there's everything that.
and we have the I-90
healthier.
corridor, so we have people that come from the past. If they're injured, this may be the first place or the only place they go.
People that live in Seattle.
Yeah.
So I think
I'm not
because,
challenging it, I'm liking it.
yeah, I mean, we liked it
Checking
here, and I think that we like it here. So we've got two options. I'd like to know, again, you get to vote once for one or the other. Would you prefer our community will become the healthiest in the country, or our community will become the healthiest in the U.S.? Those that prefer country over U.S., raise your hand. 1, 2, just so we can, 3, 4.
Country's just easier.
Yeah.
Country's easier?
Yeah.
The country don't be
Country's easier.
misunderstood because we are in a rural environment and we may be implying among rural populations.
Capitalized country.
And so.
Yeah, I think if we capitalize country, that won't happen.
Oh,
Not,
Yeah.
not only that, you've got Snoqualmie and
That's good.
Yeah.
you've got the mill pond that's going to develop. We're not going to be country very much longer.
And I live in the country.
I like the
it.
capitalized
It's fine.
country.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's good.
it's a great statement. Are you guys okay to put I know David's okay. Are you guys
I'm
put
okay with
a
that.
fork in it and move on?
Would it
Yes.
would it be
Let's move on.
odd to do capital for community and capital for country?
I think that's kind of cool. It's emphasis.
On
I'm not grammatically correct, and I never will be. But
Doesn't have to be.
I think it's a great idea.
I don't think it has to.
Really?
That's good.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Our community.
Okay, folks, we're going to put all our energy and money towards this to make it happen.
It's bold.
It
That's
is.
the healthiest with that there a question? Healthiest what? I don't know.
Healthiest.
Healthiest.
Healthiest people, healthiest people.
I don't know, I'm just kind
Another
of.
possibility is in our nation.
That's work.
Facility, healthiest.
We'll work on how do we measure it, how do we operationalize it, how do we.
There was one other option there, I just want to run past you, a friendly amendment, is that you could go country or nation. Our community will become the healthiest in the country, or our community become the healthiest in the nation.
Oh, I like
I
nation.
like nation.
You like nation?
Yeah,
More power.
yeah, it's cool.
I like
It-
country.
Hey, it's an election year, it feels good.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
I have a daughter in Europe right now. It doesn't feel good.
Nice.
Really.
Nice.
Awesome.
Germany.
Nice work. 2 friendly amendments that got passed. That's cool.
Thanks for accepting.
Well, I didn't accept it, your colleagues did.
My colleagues, thank you,
Yeah.
my colleagues for accepting.
Okay.
Of course, I've accepted a lot of theirs too.
I'm going to put these together. Nice work, okay, and we're pacing perfectly on time. So we're going to move to our last conversation. I'll be taking all this with me. And that is our strategic focus. Excuse me. So the exact same process applies. We are not necessarily starting from the ground up, as we didn't do for the mission and the vision. These were the 4 strategic focus areas that you all developed, that most of you developed, in the 13-14 strategic plan. It is what is identified in the strategic plan. So having a strategic focus, I'm assuming this was professionally facilitated, because this is a really good framework. Having, 4 categories, you can have 3, you can have 5, whatever, you decide that. But having 4 categories that you develop,
Good job.
strategic priorities under, it's like a guidance system. And so that's really outstanding. So I'm just opening it up for the conversation. Option 1, you got 3 options. Option 1 is affirm it as it is. Option 2 is change 1 or more. Option 3 is start from scratch. And I can facilitate anything. If we start from scratch, it may end up in ad hoc, because we have essentially 35 minutes left in this retreat before we do our wrap-up. And you know how anal retentive I am.
I just want to change one matter, the finance. I would like to put that in the front, and it should be future financial stability.
How about the word solvent?
Or what about fiscal health?
I think we need to look at the future.
Let me
and
capture one of these at a time. Say that again, David.
future financial stability. Without it, nothing else matters.
I like that.
So you're talking about getting away from single-word categories and creating
I think you're going to
sentences.
have to, the rest of the categories are fine in my opinion, anyway, but we have to be looking at the future
What about
finance.
liability?
Well, that could actually be the strategy and work underneath.
Liability?
So here's what I'm recommending,
Just-
that you remain within the same genre. You either have 4 of them that are single words, or you have
Right,
4
in
of
a
them
line.
that are 2 or 3 words or whatever, but keeping within the same genre is smart. Now, you can have the top priority strategy dealing with all the words that you said. These are not goal statements. These are not strategic statements. They are merely labels that identify strategic focus areas. The work that gets into the detail, that defines what that category means, is what we'll get into on day 2. I'm not saying that you're wrong. We will do what you all want to do. I'm just saying, I don't recommend that you've got like 3 words here and 1 word there and 1 word there. So I got a lot of hands going up. I'm going to go Tom, Kim, Emma, and Jean.
In our
You missed
past
mine.
plan, we actually crafted statements to help people understand what were we talking about in these 4 categories. And I think, to David's point, we want to make sure that we're capturing how important finance is in.
Could you read the statement under finance?
Well, I'm not sure it's the right, I mean.
Well, I'm not saying it is,
Okay,
but I'd like a flavor for what
Yeah.
you're talking
So
about.
this definition says a healthy financial position is essential for the hospital, I'm paraphrasing, to fulfill its mission of providing quality care. Access to sufficient capital, positive cash flow, and positive operating margins allow the hospital to grow and thrive. And we could put some words in there. Like
So what I'm hearing you
this.
say is that if we stuck with the one words to accomplish what David is, maybe we'd have a one-sentence descriptor under each of the four words.
We actually,
Would that
No,
work for you?
that's fine, I just,
Okay.
I think,
Yeah,
But you're also saying, I heard you say, is you want it to be the number one.
yes, absolutely, right,
Oh,
based on my analysis for the last several years,
that's where we need to go.
you know, that,
Well, those
and what I'm
ranking-
seeing right now.
What?
Are they in order?
Well, that's what this is, right here,
Yeah.
which is in your little
You can
book,
come
if you
down
got
to
one.
this one.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
quality
we'll
was
come
first,
down.
finance was second, relationships and then growth.
What?
Point of clarification,
Just a second.
It's the focus area.
It's the no mission.
Point of clarification?
is this for internal or external?
Everything.
audiences?
Yeah, a strategic plan is a public
The
document.
reason is for an external audience, I don't like to put finance first.
What do you mean? They put that up, totally up number one in the voting process for their constituents.
But I agree with David that without the financial stability, everything else crumbles.
Right.
So it's critically important. It's just that for an external audience, I like to talk more about quality and growth and actually expansion of services.
Okay.
That's another.
Well, I can run an exercise that will allow you to all rank the four. But I do want to get to some, we had a lot of hands up here. I want to make sure to get to everybody. We heard from you. Who, did you?
Yes. So we've had these four focus
And
areas.
I've got
for the
Emma
last-
and Jean, too.
Yeah, so we've had these four focus areas since at least 2012, and so as we've used them internally to organize ourselves, the quality, finance, and relationships absolutely are quite easy to use, and growth is clunky to use. It's like when we organize our meetings and our planning and what have you, and this is my experience.
I agree with that.
And so the growth becomes clunky in it because it's been clunky because underneath it comes things about quality, things about relationships, and things about finance, whereas the other three are much easier to stand alone. And then as I look at the statement that Tom suggested to us, the quality, finance, and relationships really live in those four. You know, thriving financially, highly satisfying patient experiences, that's quality, improve the health, that's of our community, that's relationships, and highly satisfying workplace is relationships. So my suggestion is bring it down to three, and then add the descriptions underneath them, but keep them quality.
Well, you just
finance,
listed four, though.
No, she wants to get rid of growth.
Two of them.
Well, I wrote
get rid
that
of
down.
growth.
So growth wasn't easy, but if you did these, you've got four. You've got
No,
one
but
on
there's
finance.
two of them that actually fall into relationships.
They do, yeah.
Oh, well, I was actually, I went beyond that and dumped those words, and you've got one about thriving financially, another one about satisfied patients, which is about experience relationship, another one about improving health, and then the last one about a great workplace. One thing that you're saying that I think is really important, and that is operationally, those other three are really easy to work within, and this all has to work operationally, except for the word growth.
Correct. And so I like these as terms rather than these as the header terms.
Got it.
Because these are broader and they're easier to put
I agree.
things under them.
We can find homes for those.
These narrow just a little bit.
Got it.
Yeah.
So your
Those four
suggestion,
places,
Got it.
they
your
can find
suggestion
homes.
is to leave it the way it is, but drop growth.
I-
Let me hear from some other folks. Did you have something, Joan? I know that Emma and Jean did.
well, I'm thinking about it.
Okay, go
I'll
ahead.
just say, I think that I'm having trouble, like Dr. Whitcup, with growth, because that goes in with whatever. But I don't know,
Well, if you're
I'm
good
looking
at
at our
this,
old-
and this, that will happen.
Right.
yeah,
It's, difference between
yeah,
a
and I'm
chicken and an
looking,
egg.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the goals that we wrote, adopt new technologies that improve care and whatever, innovation and promote growth. That could all be happening in the other pieces of
Okay,
it.
that's a really good point. Emma,
Um,
what are you thinking?
I think all four is good, I like that, but I also think that we need to remember how to use and become it more sustainability for all of four areas. Sustainability is a...
Are you
something-
suggesting sustainability would be its own strategic focus
Yeah.
area? Or that
I'd like to
sustainability
have-
would be part of all of them?
I'd like to add that, or if we can incorporate it on all four, that would be fine. Because, we can be, but if we can't sustain it with the market or the trend continually fluctuating, we will have to be able to sustain some of our focus.
So I think Kim and I and David and Joan were here when we did this last go around on this, and growth, I think, was to capture emphasis on developing new service lines in part. And so if we drop growth, how are we going to capture what we all think is a very important strategic focus area, and that is where can we expand or develop new service lines?
I think quality and
How do we sustain?
finance are where that's going to happen.
For relationships.
Yeah, and
But that's not
relationships,
intuitive, though,
absolutely.
really.
Huh?
I
That's
think
not intuitive.
This is to at least in my opinion, the strategic focus areas are to organize you, not to be your mission or your vision.
That's exactly right.
It's just a...
They are
it's
categories
organized
that you
time.
develop strategic priorities under that become operational guidelines and work plans.
To me-
Jean? Yeah, oh, go ahead.
To me, growth should be the result of good quality health care, financial stability, and developing relationships. That should automatically give you
Right,
growth.
but that's
Yeah.
incidental. That's incidental. If we want to have a targeted focus area on expanded service lines, I think it ought not be incidental.
But I think you have to...
Yeah.
But I think it will go under a different category depending on what it is. If you're doing it not because it's financially viable, but it's the right thing to do and meets a community need, it's going to be under your relationships category. If it's a great opportunity to really financially have a great outcome from it, it falls under finance.
Okay, Jean, you've been very patient. I'm coming to you.
I just want, once again, definitions. What do we mean by relationships? Because I just learned from Jay Rodney that when we talk about growth, we're not talking about expanding our physical plant, which was what most people would think from growth. Sure. Just like Kittitas has added a new surgical center.
I have an answer for that.
And so I'm delighted to hear that what Jay is suggesting is we need to expand our services. I don't get that from growth, but we do need to cover that.
So the question...
I wonder if David would be satisfied do we have to keep this to 4 words or 4 concepts?
They got to keep them to 4 strategic focus areas.
So
there are 4 categories that you will develop strategies under.
I wonder if David would be satisfied if we said quality, financial stability, right there. And then we can discuss relationships.
Or viability, that's fine. I don't mind the 4.
Viability is good.
Can I cut in at this point, or are you done?
I'm fine, yes.
Okay. I don't mind these 4 categories, but I'm looking at all the goals. All of the goals in these categories have all changed, so they really don't make...
That's why we're not talking about this.
So, that's what I was trying to my point was, none of this makes sense. if
And
this
it
is what
doesn't
you're
have to,
doing.
because day 2 is about developing new strategic priorities. But to do that, we have to have strategic focus areas to develop them under.
So, but I would propose then viability in lieu of, or to replace finance. So that is what I think is
So, just viability is one word or financial viability?
one word, that's fine. And then.
So in other words, viability, quality, and relationship.
Yeah, that's
Cool.
fine.
Or growth, or a different word. Okay, there's one thing that I want to put, this first of all, great conversation. I want to put an emphasis on, and it's something that Kim talked about. And the reason that I want to emphasize it, because what we're doing now is easy. What we do on day 2, developing strategic priorities, is easy. It's like falling off a log. Developing and executing work plans tied to performance management metrics, that takes tenacity and courage. What we're doing is the easy part. Back to what you were saying, that operationally, the quality financial relationship were easy to develop work plans and focus around, and measurements around, and growth was kind of squishy and hard. So maybe we come up with another word that has to do with expanding new products and services, which, by the way, is supported in the data. So what Jay is suggesting is absolutely supported by the data. But whatever these 4 categories are, and if you want to change finance to viability, I think that is completely appropriate. But at the end, these 3, 4, or 5 have to work operationally. That's what objective categories, or what you're calling strategic focus areas, need to do. They need to be able to align functionally to how you get your work done.
Maybe instead of growth, transformation or something.
Or maybe transformation is what if we're going to do single words. What's a synonym to growth? Cinnamon?
Do we have to have
Did somebody
4?
put vodka in my coffee again?
I'm with that line. I don't feel like we need to have 4.
Yeah.
You don't feel like we need to have 4?
No.
That's what I would say.
So what I'm
Why do we
hearing,
have to have
well,
4?
one second, what I'm hearing is quality, viability, and relationships.
Do relationships include affiliation, partners?
Yes.
Could you define relationships
Everything.
so that I understand that better?
Can you read the little short blurb under relationship?
Relationships, it may not get us there, but I think I'll just say my
It
feeling
certainly
is
could.
yes, it does. Here it says, building relationships is the foundation upon which rests our mission of providing quality health care in a collaborative environment. So it doesn't quite, I mean, that, I wouldn't try to draw that forward. I think we ought to talk about how relationships is about.
Well, and that's what
Other
we'll talk about in
organizations.
the breakout teams. The
Yeah.
point is very well taken, though, is that there's internal relationships, there are strategic relationships, there are customer relationships, and that the relationship should be the big R relationship. It's just like the viability should be big. I mean, one of the key things under viability is going to be sustainability in terms of financial direction of
And
performance.
quality's going to affect viability, and relationships will affect viability. Yeah.
It is. So what I'm hearing is that we go from 4 to 3, and I don't care what order it is, but that'll be easy to solve. Quality, viability, and relationship. Is that what I'm hearing? Because I'm seeing lots of nods, but I don't want to, I kind of want to go back to Jay's comment. Is developing new service lines a priority? Is it important to us?
I think we should leave that growth
So
there.
then growth needs to
Well,
stay.
or maybe a different word than growth.
Well, why
Because that's
Or would it fall under one of those 3?
See, I think it falls under relationships and finance, both.
we have to continually mature, we don't just, I think
But
that's
if
growth.
it's a priority, then I think you have to spell it out.
What word
But-
can we use instead of growth?
It's just
Ah.
an organizational
Expansion of
tool,
service.
it's not
But-
our tactics and our.
No, but because it's a standalone, there are going to be work plans developed around that.
But
Specific work plans tied to metrics, tied to,
Sometimes it'll be under finance and relationships too.
yeah. How do you define growth? There's growth financially in your finances. There's growth in the number of patients or the different services that we offer. There's growth in, we have
Growth in
clinics.
footprint?
Pardon?
Growth in footprint?
Yeah,
Service?
yeah, service. If we get more service, are we going to need to grow on this site?
Growth in strategic
It's
partners?
also maturation.
Yeah, yes. So growth can be in any of those. In fact, growth has to be in all 3 of those. If we don't grow all 3 of those, we're going to die.
right, but I think if you're looking at what Andrew said, reviewing the community data,
Yeah.
granted it's only 21 responses, but once that grows, right now there's a disconnect between our services and the community's needs.
That's
or what the
right.
community wants.
Jay, it's also supported by the commissioner and leadership data,
Right.
not
Yeah.
just the community data.
And so there's a disconnect between what the community wants from us and what we are providing. And so something that is that critical, I would think you'd want to have it spelled out as its own specific focus area for strategic planning.
To me,
That
growth,
means keeping growth.
Yeah.
Or some words that is synonymous.
Get a better word, I suppose.
I have a suggestion right now. Dario just made a compelling presentation about how what you're talking about on growth could fall under those three categories. I'd like to give Jay an opportunity to give us a presentation on why growth should be standalone, and I think the best way to do that would be give specific strategic ideas, like you said, expand products and services.
Well, yeah, and again, I'm going to, what I saw was a disconnect between what we are providing, what the community wants. Mammography, OB, OBGYN.
And what the commissioners want in terms of public health.
Right,
Or
mental
wellness
health,
program.
mental health.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that if we're going to do justice to something that is so important as meeting the needs of the community, again, it shouldn't be within, because quality, has a distinct meaning in healthcare.
And it's
really
gonna be
patient
more.
safety and
Yeah.
process improvement.
Yeah.
Viability or finance is about the fiscal health of the organization. Any service line development may be incidental. Finance would require cutting service lines. Right, so I think that again, service line development or meeting the needs of the community still is incidental to each of those three things. And you could make an argument that they fit within certain categories, but I think that something that's that important, again, that's the reason we exist, is doing an assessment of the needs of the community and tailoring our delivery of services to meet those needs. We ought to.
See, I probably,
You go ahead, I've already spoke once or
Okay,
twice.
then, along those lines, Jay, what you're saying is a very specific type of growth. It's growth that fills those gaps versus growth for growth's sake.
Right.
Right.
I think his argument is that there needs to be a place for that in our strategic development process.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So-
there does.
So to your point, Jay, you're saying intentional growth versus growth that comes from natural outcome of some of these other activities.
Yeah, and I think growth might be the wrong word. Maybe it's
Well,
relevancy.
That's a better word.
And see, what I was thinking of
What's
was,
No, relevancy.
back to our vision and our mission, and thinking about filling those gaps, healthier community, now lay on growth. How do we grow in order to accomplish those things?
I think relevancy is a much better word, because I think sometimes the community thinks we are a nursing home. And that's what they think. They don't necessarily think swing bed.
Right.
They think a nursing home and rehab and that kind of stuff.
What do you think, Julie? What do you think?
I don't agree with relevancy, because you've got relationships, relevancy, it just sounds a little bit redundant. I
It's too
prefer
hard.
growth if we all understand what we're talking about.
I do too. I think that growth should stand alone.
What sounds to me,
Definition.
it sounds to me like we're circling back to David's original point, and that is that we need to have a description for each of these four.
There we go.
So what I'm going to suggest,
Definition.
just we're running out of time, and this would be a parking lot issue, is that we go with, is it viability or?
Viability.
Viability.
Viability, quality, relationship, and growth. And then in the 5 weeks we have, we develop an ad hoc process to come up with one short descriptive sentence. So that when we actually do the strategic development, we know what we're doing.
Good idea.
It's defined.
That works.
Nitpicking is friendly amendment?
Go for it.
And that is.
You've been great, go for
I
it.
agree with David, this is the most important thing. But just in reading this, I still want to have quality listed as the first item and viability second.
Hey, I tell you what, why don't we do
As a
this?
psychological strategy.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we, for right now, agree on the four and not necessarily agree on the order?
Okay.
Because the hard part isn't the order. The hard part is going to be coming up with one sentence of 15 words or less that clarifies each of these four areas. So what I'm understanding, irrespective of order, is that we have quality, viability, relationships, and growth.
But to Tom's point, though, I agree, it's not just growth for growth's sake. I mean,
No, it's controlled growth
there's a
or
directed growth.
Relevant.
It's
Being relevant.
responsiveness to the needs of the community.
Yeah, and
I
that'll
can't
play out
put that in one
the,
word.
it'll play out in the
I
descriptive
think that's
statement.
why you have to have a
Yeah,
description in
descriptors.
one sentence.
Yeah.
But you're right, I think in reality, we have to meet the needs of our community, and there is a disconnect right now from
I agree.
many, many people I talk to, more than half.
They don't think
Yeah,
we can
there's
meet their
a-
needs. We're not relevant to them.
So,
Not,
Well, that's because nobody comes down, are they?
From here?
Okay, so we not only know what we're going to do, we've come to an agreement on this. We're going to have an assignment, which
Was
we
that
will.
just a sense of consensus that you got from that?
I thought we had
I
consensus.
just wondered, we didn't vote, I was just wondering, we're all good?
That's a great question. You guys good with this?
Anybody object?
What do we object
I guess
to?
I heard silence.
Yeah, I thought that we were okay on this, but if you weren't sure about that, then it's a good
No, I'm
enough
just
thing to
checking in.
check. So let me put the two things up to make sure we know what we're okay on. Number one, we're going to go with 4 categories in no particular order: quality, viability, relationships, and growth. And between now and the 29th, we're going to develop some form of an ad hoc process. And usually a good ad hoc process requires 3 people to develop a 1-sentence description for each of the 4 focus areas. And I would say, again, staying within the same genre, focus them in at like, 1 15-word sentence. So it's like, 1 sentence rather than a dissertation like those there. Well, I'm not.
Not a poetry.
It's okay, you get a PhD for that.
That's 27.
All right.
And they're really long words, Kim. So those are the 2 things I guess we're asking for a consensus. Thumbs up? Thumbs up?
Yeah. What am I thumbsing up?
I got 100% of thumbs up. You got a thumbs up that everybody agreed that you were going to take on the responsibility of developing all the description sentences.
There you go.
No, we're agreeing on the 4 in no particular order, and that we're going to develop
yes.
short descriptive sentences.
I got that.
Okay, so great. Then what we're going to do now is the wrap-up, and part of the wrap-up is putting teeth to this task. And you have to have 3 things for a task to have teeth. I can't talk. This is fun. You guys are getting work done. You have to define who does what by when. And I would suggest that we have. I would suggest that we have this done 2 weeks before our next session. Give ourselves a little margin. Margin's power. So, let's first of all, give yourselves a hand. This is great. I'm serious. Have a little bit of enthusiasm here. I mean, you guys have had some really great conversations, and everything you've done has improved the product. And all of a sudden, we have a North Star. We have a little bit of work to do on the North Star, but we've got a North Star. And by the way, I will email all of this to you tomorrow, so we don't forget what we're committing to. So let's go ahead and wrap up day 1. If we get out of here 5, 10 minutes early, are you going to be mad at me?
No.
Nobody ever has been, but it's all I checked.
No, mad.
Okay,
We'll help you miss the traffic.
so updates,
5 minutes won't help.
closing remarks. Usually the next steps happen at the end of the last day. We're going to do next steps right now, because we have to put together an action item to develop those sentences. So what I'm going to say, instead of doing a brand new sheet, I'm going to put them right here. Process. I mean, I've got an idea, but this is your meeting, not mine. I'd like to hear from you first. If you want some ideas, I'm happy to share. So we want to get this done in 3 weeks. 4 simple, short, concise, clarifying statements for each of those 4 words. Where did I put it? So what's the
Quality,
process?
viability.
What process would you suggest?
I think assignment to, the core committee people, the financial statement
Oh, I see.
to
Yeah.
our committee people, the quality to the medical committee,
Oh, very good.
just trying to sort it out quickly.
So instead of talking about people, you're doing the right thing. Let's talk about who should be represented in that group.
Well, we have standing board committees.
Finance committee,
Medical.
Oh, you're saying
Quality?
that you divide these
Yeah,
up. Each
yeah.
standing committee
Right.
comes up with their own, oh, brilliant, divide and conquer.
Yes.
But we don't have a committee though for relationships. This would have to be the
Facilities
CEO.
can take care of this.
We could do that. I'll take that.
So
Or we
who,
can't use a committee chair, that's a great idea.
so let's just do it. I think you guys have figured it out. Assign,
Let's go
so
through it.
viability,
David.
is that the finance standing committee?
Yes, that would be David.
Yeah.
David. Somebody has to draft it out first.
I'll go ahead.
Quality.
Thanks,
Medical.
Medical?
There's
We'll
the
bounce
medical.
it back and forth between Daryl and I, and then we'll send it off to the staff,
Relationships,
financial committee.
Tom said he'd do that.
Relationships is
Exact.
Tom?
Exact.
Yes, Zach.
Exactly.
Exec.
Exec
Yeah,
team, yeah.
And the last is growth?
Jay.
That's Jay.
Sounds like
Exactly.
facilities, though.
Should we do that
Growth
executive?
facilities?
Well, we're talking about physical plan, but we're talking about expansion of
Yeah.
services.
Programs.
Programs, that's,
Should we do that?
legislative can do that.
What do you think, Tom? Is that-
And by the way, the names I'm putting up here are not responsible for doing all the work. They're the champions to make sure that it gets done.
Yeah.
They need to tap other people. I think it would be really a good idea is if you had one commissioner, at least one commissioner, and one staff on each of these groups.
Yeah.
I'm assuming your standing committees have staff liaisons.
Yes, they do.
Good.
Yes, they do.
Because we want this to be a coordinated effort that includes our leadership and our commissioners, because that'll produce a better product. So David is in charge of finance. Who's in charge of medical? Is that Kim?
Yeah.
And I'm going to put Tom.
You wanna work on growth?
Sure.
Well, now, too, you have, in quality, you have Joan
I'm
sits
the
on quality.
Do you want to go ahead and fill out the entire committees right now?
Well, I like the idea of the dyads, so, a dyad working on it, so you could have, under finance, you could have David and Steve,
Oh, yeah?
and with medical, you've got Joan and Kim, and under relationships, again, let's just give that to the executive team for now.
Well, it'd be great, though, if you had a commissioner assigned to that, to work with you on that.
You want to do that?
Yeah.
Okay, good, Daryl,
And then
excellent.
Gene and I will take growth.
Awesome.
I'm glad to work with Jay on that, but I think since we're talking about expansion of services, we got to get medical involved with that also.
You guys would start and you can hand it off to us because our committee is the farthest away.
Pardon?
Our committee meeting is
Yeah,
the
good idea.
farthest away of anybody's.
Yeah.
So you start and you can hand it to us.
So let's identify a due date for first draft, for purview, and then a due date for final. And in between the first draft and the final is when all the iterative work has to happen.
I think Emma wanted to work with me on the viability. She was very,
Emma?
very, yes.
Viability?
Is that right?
Sure.
Okay.
I didn't want to
I'm
exclude.
upset because you didn't include sustainability there, but that's okay.
Well,
So,
if
I know
growth
you've been
didn't
very
make it, I was going to
vocal
suggest
about it.
sustainability.
What's that?
Sustain,
What did you?
I said if growth didn't make it cut, I would have suggested sustainability.
Sustainability would have been, yeah.
So what's the date for these groups to put together a first draft that gets sent to the whole group?
2 weeks,
10 days.
10 days,
End of
okay.
the month. Yeah.
Give me a date.
Doing it in committee meeting?
Friday the 29th.
Well, yeah, you gotta wait till you get to
Yeah,
it.
that's fine.
7/29?
7/29? So it's a week and a
Yeah.
week and a day.
I didn't,
I thought we were doing it in committee meeting.
No, we had a different idea, that's okay.
I think
But
we're-
I was just using the committee.
Well, how far in
I know
advance
you
of
wanted
meeting
to.
number 2 should we have done this?
I'd like to see it done 2 weeks in advance, so we have.
Okay.
2 weeks from
People
there.
are-
So that'd be the middle of August. What's the middle of Friday in August?
Okay.
The 13th or the 20th?
Mhm.
Oh, 12th or the 19th?
12th would be about the middle, I think.
Okay, you want to do the 12th and 19th for the final?
12th is how far away?
How about the 12th, we circulate it, and 19th we finalize?
Well, I was suggesting we circulate it by the 29th and get input.
I think that's a little unrealistic, but
Well, I mean, circulate the first draft.
How about 8/5 for the first draft? Is that too far away?
That's better.
That's
a week from Friday.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
also.
I mean, the final
So 2
draft
weeks from
date.
tomorrow for the first draft, second draft due on 5.
No, 2 weeks would be, yeah,
That's more
29.
realistic.
8/19?
That's
I tell you what, each
Committee.
committee can do their own second draft.
Yeah.
Let's
We
just
can have
have
it done
spring,
early
the
if we
beginning and
want,
the end.
so.
So the first draft is due no later then the 5th. The final product needs to be done by the 19th. I guess it's 10 days margin.
And does that include having circulated it?
Oh, yeah. Final is final. I mean, you're
All
done.
right, so we circulate the first draft.
Well, you can do whatever process you want. What I suggest is that each of these groups, and I think that there should be a statement that defines the criteria so everybody's working from the same ground rules, so you end up with consistency in the statements. In other words, we don't want one statement at 11 words and another one at 31. I think that there need to be...
I think your experience...
I am happy to do that.
How many words?
How many words is?
Well, I'm going to suggest 15, 20 max.
15 to 20 words.
If you end up at 14 or 21, nobody's going to do, but if you don't establish some boundaries on the
Yeah.
front end,
Yeah.
then you can go forever.
Okay.
Anyway, what I would recommend is that the groups, of course, need to get together well in advance of the 5th and come up with their first draft statement. And I would suggest that this would be a 30-minute meeting, that you do not take all day figuring this thing out. And I will. I'll have it to you tomorrow.
Okay, that's what I wanted
And
to
so then what I would suggest is that when each of the groups, hey everybody.
Hey, guys.
Guys, we gotta bring you all together, Emma, so we can all agree on the process. The idea is that it's done, the first draft is done by the 5th, and then there will be some format, maybe they all get sent to Tom for distribution to the 9 of you. And the 9 of you are not mandating what happens, but anybody could make a suggestion. Like I'd suggest changing this word or adding this or subtracting this.
Back to the drafting group.
Back to the drafting group. And the drafting group can choose to take the suggestion or not. We have to honor that
So
the
the
drafting
first draft
group.
should go to all.
Yes, go to all, and then everybody has a period of a few days to respond. And that way, you guys get back together again and look at the recommendations, and based on what you decide to adopt or not, it's up to each of the individual groups, come up with the final statement. If we're all playing by the same ground rules, we do not have to have 100% consensus and everybody thinking all 4 statements are perfect. If we try to achieve that, we'll fail miserably. You have to give each of the crafting committees authority on their final product. Otherwise, it won't work.
One other thing, and this is the concept that we're talking about. These could be descriptors, definitions of what we mean. They could be aspirational statements. They could start to read like a goal. What do we want these to be?
That's a good question, because whatever it is, we want them all to use the same format.
We want to be getting at the same concept.
Yes. Well, the original idea was that it would be a description. Does anybody else want to weigh in on this? Aspirational goal, a clarifying description. What do you want these things to be?
I think description is what we're looking for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Certainly, a mission statement, promote the health and well-being of the people of our community by providing quality care in a collaborative environment. Vision is we will safeguard the health of our community.
No.
And that's, wait.
No, we're all new here.
No. I'm just saying these are what was down before.
Gotcha.
And that's how many words they were.
But our
Anywhere
new
from-
guidance system, our new
Yeah.
guidance system
This is
is
old.
to promote and improve. Read the rest of the mission statement.
This one was promote the health and well-being of people.
Can you just say to promote and improve?
Yeah.
That's the only change we did.
Yeah.
Go ahead and say that again.
Promote and improve, improve the well-being, or what did you take out?
I didn't take anything out, but
Okay.
so all you're doing is you're starting off with promote and improve, then you read what's already there.
But you gotta go to the focus areas, Daryl, and read the definition, description.
Oh, who we are and why we are here?
Does that description under quality?
What am I doing wrong here?
Description under
I
finance.
think
Yeah, I tell you what.
really want to look at
I'm
is,
That's all right.
Let me,
Oh, these things,
Yeah,
okay.
these are the things that we're going to work on.
Here.
Yeah, got it.
Okay, so here is the mission statement. So the guidance system for everything forward is promote and improve the health and well-being of people in our community by providing quality care in a collaborative environment. Your new vision statement is our community will become the healthiest in the nation.
Oh, so that changes the whole thing.
So that is the focus. So it sounds like you guys have agreed to develop a concise and clarifying description for each of those 4 words.
For the quality, for the finance,
Yes.
for,
Right.
not
For
finance,
quality,
for viability.
Yeah.
Sure.
relationships, and what do we use? Do we end up with growth, or did we use something else?
Okay.
We use something else.
And that we are going to target between 15 and 20 words.
No.
I'll type all that up and get it to you tomorrow morning.
So
Is everybody good with that?
This is what we're working on.
Okay.
Yeah, right there.
You've done a great job. You got through the whole agenda. You've done good work. You have assigned yourself the work in between to do those descriptions, and we're in good shape so far.
Okay. All right.
So, is Emma going to work with you instead of me?
I guess so.
Any questions about what we're doing going forward in preparation for 2019?
On that, I just thought I wanted.
Pardon me? Coming back. Okay, guys, we're gonna end here in a couple of minutes, and I would like to give Darielle and Tom, our commissioner and staff leader, just an opportunity to share closing remarks. Facilitator never has the first word or the last word. I'm done. You guys are awesome. Would you close this out, please?
I'll go first, and then you can say, you can have the last word as our president.
Say the closing prayer.
Yeah. First, Andrew, thank you. Appreciate the pre-work that you've done and for leading us through what I think has been productive for us. I am very excited about session 2.
Me too.
I think that we are teed up for it. I recognize that we have still a lot of work to do, but I am enthused and I am encouraged by this work that we're going to get to where we want to be by the end of session 2, and that is a list of very specific strategies that will carry us forward for the next 2 years. And I just want to remind the group that we are halfway through. This is, from the very beginning we said we're not going to be there by the end of one session, and by design we are on track, and at the end of session 2 we'll have strategies that will guide us. And I also want to express appreciation to everybody here. Really nice participation from all. It was, I have to admit, going into these things, you have a little bit of, okay, what's it going to be like? How's this going to go? And it far exceeded my expectations.
Anal dyslexics rule.
I have to say, particularly of the board, that I was so proud. I'm so proud of how everybody worked together. We all got along. There was no stancing. Everybody worked, and I felt like all of us, staff and board, were heading in the same direction and want the same thing. And I had a great time today. I enjoyed working with everybody and enjoyed the time, and I'm not leaving all frustrated and upset. And that, I think, is a nice thing. For a change. Yes, I tried not to say that, but...
You set the bar real low.
No, I didn't. Everybody really stepped up.
Okay, are we done?
Thank you. Oh, yeah, excuse me. Well, wait until you take everybody, yeah, I have to adjourn.
No, I'm just thanking everybody.
Thank you.
I appreciate working with
I
you.
was just happy to
Thank you.
agree that most of the time with Gene, and when we did this with Ray, we did it in peace. Time with Gene, and when we did this with Ray, we did it in peace. Time with Gene, and when we did this with Ray, we did it in peace. Time with Gene, and when we did this with Ray, we did it in peace. Time with Gene, and when